This is the most ridiculous emperor I've ever seen. For a green tea bitch he just met, he wants to divorce the empress he grew up with. Unexpectedly, the empress is no pushover either. She immediately announced she'd remarry the world-famous playboy Prince of Ning. The empress's name is Rabia, coming from the royal Droy family. As the crown princess chosen by the late emperor, she was destined for an extraordinary life. But fortunately, unlike political marriages in the Ming dynasty, Rabia and Emperor Sobi grew up together. Best friends, of course, were just friends. They worked together on how to govern the country well. However, today, this seemingly perfect royal couple in the eyes of the world divorced me. I, Rabia, Empress of the Eastern Empire, agreed to this divorce. Rabia stopped reminiscing about the past. She approached the nobles gathered for the public announcement. There was an uproar. The emperor and empress, who had always been respectful and loving, were actually getting divorced. The duke wanted to step forward to stop all this, but it was to no avail. His father, Ross, put on an innocent face, pretending to know nothing. His lips were pursed to the sky. After all, if the empress steps down, the throne would be his. The empress finally glanced in her husband's direction, only to see the emperor embracing his mistress lovingly. It was truly an eyesore. She instantly confirmed her decision to divorce immediately. When the Chief Justice asked again if the Empress agreed to the divorce, without hesitation, she chose, "I agree to the divorce." The Emperor, hearing this, felt quite guilty inside, but there was no choice. If the mistress couldn't become Empress, their illegitimate child could never become a prince. But the hypocritical apology was dispersed by Ravia's next words. "I request to remarry." The emperor and his father heard these words with disbelief. The onlookers in the court immediately burst into discussion. Just divorced and wanting to remarry. Is that even possible? That's right, she's remarrying. The beautiful Golden Empress will never lack suitors. But the judge was also shocked, accepting the impact of this news. Who could this new hero be that the Empress is remarrying? While people were still guessing which man had won the Empress's heart, the Prince of Ning appeared. It turned out to be Prince Hein. The whispers and discussions in the scene grew even louder. "How could it be you?" The chief official was also completely surprised. But none of that mattered. The Empress was right before him. Hein calmly walked past the expressionless emperor, coming to Ravia's side. The image of the two together was simply perfect, a match made in heaven. "I want to marry him," Rabia said casually. The moment after the divorce, the Empress announced her remarriage, and to the handsome Prince of Ning, "You dare to cheat on me and make me a cuckold. I dare to seamlessly move on to someone better." Flashback to a few months ago, the maids in the Empress's palace were passionately gossiping. They were complaining about how His Majesty brought back a beautiful slave girl while the Empress was away. Unexpectedly, the Empress pushed open the door at that moment. The two quickly shut up. "Last time, His Majesty is not allowed." The Empress doesn't know about this yet. However, Rabia hadn't heard a word. She just felt the atmosphere was unusual. Why is it so quiet? Her keen intuition made her ask, "Did anything happen while I was away?" Hearing this, Rolla Weishi couldn't hold back and started rapid-firing information. His Majesty brought back a shabby woman and ordered us to bathe her. What status does this woman have? She's not worthy of our service. Although we are the Empress's maids, we are proper nobles. But to be fair, although the woman was dressed in rags, she was very beautiful. However beautiful she may be, she can't compare to the Empress. After all, that woman is just a lowly slave, while the Empress is the most noble woman in the empire. But His Majesty seemed to like that woman very much. The Countess was very uneasy. His Majesty likes her, but it's quite novel. We haven't seen him like anyone since marrying the Empress. His Majesty was so caring towards her, asking if her body was weak, why her complexion was so poor. The Countess angrily recalled the previous scene, but Rabia didn't mind at all. This is just because His Majesty is not naive and is considerate, that's all. Naive my foot. The two of them were making eyes at each other. Only Rabia, who's never been in love, is the most naive. Indeed, His Majesty's behavior was very ambiguous in many ways. "We're probably overthinking it," the Countess added from the side. Rabia felt helpless inside. Even if His Majesty really had something with that woman, there was nothing she could do. She rejected the maid's good intentions to help her gather information. Rabia could only repeatedly brainwash herself. His Majesty is a man with great empathy. He must have brought her back out of pity. But ironically, the more Rabia comforted herself, the crueler reality became. Outside the window was the scene of the emperor gazing lovingly at that woman. The wife of the Zheng family, the empress of the country, could only watch her husband with someone else. On one side is the intelligent and kind empress. On the other is a lowly and crude slave. Anyone with a bit of sense would choose the empress, right? But some people just prefer the lowborn. The emperor brought back a slave from the hunting grounds, causing a stir in the palace. Empress Ravia worried that the emperor had ulterior motives for the picked-up slave. The emperor, however, harbored murderous intentions towards Ravia. How dare a mere woman try to control the actions of the ruler of a country? Ravia felt increasingly uneasy and wanted to inquire further about the slave situation. It's really sickening. The emperor seemed particularly impatient and left the dining table with a gloomy expression. If she still didn't understand by now, her role as empress would have been in vain. This was an agonizing meal for Ravia and the emperor. Upon returning to her chambers, she felt inexplicably sad. Seeing the empress's mood becoming even more dejected, Rolla, who had been with the empress for years, was fuming. It must be that bitch seducing the emperor, making us unable to respect him, and the empress unhappy. Her serious demeanor made it seem as if it wasn't His Majesty who had cheated, but her own father. That's enough. The countess quickly sent Roller away to cool down. His Highness is just curious for now. He'll soon forget about that woman. Ravia knew the emperor too well. She couldn't lie to herself. All emperors throughout history have been philanderers, and His Majesty is no exception. To keep her position as empress, she must control her emotions. The countess put down the teapot. She gave Ravia a comforting hug. You and His Majesty grew up together and have been married for years. It's perfectly normal to have these feelings. Hearing this, Ravia couldn't help but wonder if His Majesty would be this upset if she were with another man. Forget it. There's no precedent for an emperor abandoning his wife for a slave since the country's founding. As long as that woman doesn't appear before her, everything will be fine. There's only one empress of the Eastern Empire, and no one could take that away from her. Days passed one by one. The palace was filled with rumors about the emperor and that lowborn woman. I can't even read my secret book in peace today. Just as Ravia was preparing to avoid the gossiping busybodies, a strange woman appeared before Ravia. Hello, Empress. Ravia was stunned by this woman. Who is she? How dare you greet me? You're not worthy. But due to her noble status, Ravia didn't lose her temper. However, the woman became increasingly presumptuous. She shouted, "Hey, at the Empress!" Wait a minute. The maid beside the woman was terrified. This is Her Majesty the Empress, Miss Rasta. Do you have a death wish? However, this woman called Rasta broke free again and came before the Empress. Lunatic. The others just wanted to leave quickly. Unexpectedly, Rasta rudely grabbed the Empress's long dress. With a ripping sound, Ravia's dress was torn with a large hole. The Emperor embraced his mistress in front of the Empress. For his little lover, he wanted to slap the Empress's face in public without reason. This is an absolute scumbag. All lovers are because of social prowess. Rasta tore the Empress's dress upon meeting her. After hesitating for a while, "I don't know how to address you." The noble Saint Nirola struck hard. "This is the Empress of the Eastern Empire. Can't you mind your words and actions? Common sense that everyone understands." Rasta doesn't get it. She knows Ravia's identity, yet she dares to address the Empress as you. The truth is beyond your imagination. Now she's even introducing herself to the Empress. Ravia was getting a headache. "You know me." Rasta explained that she's been living in the Eastern Palace recently. Ravia finally realized who this ill-mannered person was. "So you're that slave?" Hearing the Empress's question, Rasta instantly became aggrieved. How could such a cute baby be a slave? The maid beside her quickly explained that Rasta was not a slave. This was strange. The maids had all said she was a slave. It didn't matter either way now. Meanwhile, Rasta naively expressed that she would often pay respects to Ravia in the future and that they should meet frequently. "Please don't." She even asked Ravia how to address her. How to address her? "Of course, as Your Majesty the Empress." After saying this, Ravia truly didn't want to stay a moment longer. Unexpectedly, Rasta wanted to act out a scene of trying to keep her. Thanks to Rola's timely slap, Rasta's hand was swatted away. "Take your filthy hands off. Don't touch our noble Empress." Unexpectedly, the Emperor appeared. Unsurprisingly, he took Rasta's side, rebuking Rolla for speaking too harshly. Rolla and the others could only instantly cower. The Emperor just stood in front of Ravia, giving her a warning look. He immediately passed by the Empress, hurriedly coming to Rasta's side. "What's wrong? Don't cry." I told you not to cry. If you cry, it will break my heart. Such an adorable little one. The Empress silently watched this nauseating scene. What's going on? Why does my heart hurt so much? I could have chosen to turn a blind eye. I should leave now. Unexpectedly, the Emperor stopped Ravia. Empress, don't leave yet. Your Majesty, do you have any other orders? Ravia, on the verge of exploding, left that maid behind. It was Rolla, the maid who had just called Rasta filthy. The Emperor, embracing his teary-eyed little lover, demanded the Empress leave the maid behind. Your Majesty, tell me, why do you want to keep Rolla here? Unexpectedly, for a woman who wasn't even officially a concubine yet, he wanted to publicly slap the Empress's face without reason. You even say to consider the owner when beating a dog. The Emperor showed no respect at all for the maid of the mother of the nation. To make his little lover happy, he unceremoniously threw her into prison. At this point, the Empress couldn't help but speak up. Your Majesty, this punishment is too severe. She insulted my poor Rasta. 3 days of imprisonment. The Emperor thought it was lenient. Seeing the Emperor about to turn his anger on the Empress, Rolla quickly expressed her willingness to accept the punishment. Looking at the loyal Rolla, the Empress felt very reluctant. If there's nothing else, get out quickly. The Emperor had completely turned against her. Watching the two embrace intimately as they walked away, Ravia burned with anger. The Emperor was truly going too far. He didn't even leave her with a shred of dignity. 3 days later, Ravia quickly brought the poor Rolla back to comfort her. However, before she could comfort her, a summons from the Emperor arrived. The Emperor lazily reclined on the sofa, having waited for a long time. Seeing Ravia rush in, the Emperor quickly dismissed the guards. My dear, should I personally go to receive a lowly maid? Where would that leave my face as Emperor? You've always been so strong-willed from childhood to now. Can't you just obey me once? Obey you. You've lost all face for a low-born woman, and you expect me to obey. The Emperor lost face and blurted out, this is the difference between you and Rasta. Oh, you said it? Difference? Whose difference? The difference between Her Majesty the Empress and a former slave. How ridiculous. The Empress slammed the door as she left. The Emperor was left alone, slumping on the sofa. He couldn't help but sigh. My Rasta is still so obedient. No matter what kind of request he made, such an adorable young girl would always do her utmost to fulfill it for him. Ah, how could there be such a perfect woman in this world? It's a pity to keep her by his side without proper status. Letting a beauty be melancholy every day is not what a gentleman should do. In any case, he must quickly find a way for Rasta to rise in status. Ravia had long anticipated this day would come for the Emperor, but she didn't expect it to arrive so quickly. According to the Countess's intelligence, the Emperor was already arranging for her to enter the palace officially. However, it wasn't going smoothly. This woman couldn't read a single word. She couldn't even write her own name. The Emperor truly had hit rock bottom, liking such a woman. At present, the Secretary Minister was really trying to find a solution. The illiteracy problem could be crammed for a bit. But even if the legal issues were resolved, the civil matters still couldn't be dealt with. For a married Emperor's mistress to be recognized, she must receive a gift personally bestowed by the Empress. Just to give a gift, Ravia thought it wasn't impossible, unless Rasta died. Do you know what it means to be a whore, yet pretend to be virtuous? In Empress Ravia's eyes, that bitch Rasta was doing exactly that right now. Just after signing the Emperor's mistress's palace document, Rasta barged into the Empress's tea party. She expressed her wish to be like sisters with the Empress and serve the Emperor together. This woman was insane. Ravia sadly hugged the surrounding maids and looked at Rasta. It was as if she was looking at a corpse. Rasta, feeling wronged, went to the secretary and said she didn't know what she had done wrong. But the secretary only thought this woman was an idiot. She actually ran to the Empress's face, saying she wanted to be sisters and serve the Emperor together. This clearly meant she didn't want to live anymore. The depressed Ravia was walking in the garden. Suddenly, countless golden feathers fell from the sky. Looking towards the sound, she saw a large golden bird with long feathers landing beside her. They stared at each other, eye to eye. Unexpectedly, the big bird flapped its wings and took off, gently landing on Ravia's fingertip. Ravia stroked the bird's head as it frantically tried to be cute, wondering where it came from. But suddenly she noticed a note tied to the bird's foot. The note read, I am a foreign guest about to arrive for the New Year's celebration. I wrote this letter while drinking. This person was so interesting. Ravia's gloomy mood instantly vanished. Encouraged by the citizens, Ravia wrote a reply. She hoped the bird was smarter than its owner and could find his way back. Ravia, very reluctantly, released the clever big bird. Thank you for bringing me a bit of warmth in the silence. The big bird flapped its wings and disappeared into the sky. But who knew that after the Tony Ravia incident, strange things happened. The bird's body gradually began to change. Amidst swirling clouds and mist, the bird disappeared. In its place was an extremely handsome blonde man. Unaware of all this, Ravia was in high spirits. On her way back, she chatted happily with her maids. The New Year celebration was approaching, and all the maids were full of anticipation, because it was rumored that the Prince of the Western Kingdom, hailed as the world's most handsome man, would attend the celebration. Thinking of this mysterious man, even the usually composed Ravia felt a bit excited. However, her happiness lasted barely 2 seconds before the Emperor's ill-omened face appeared before her. Unsolicited favors are either treacherous or thieving. Empress, no noble is willing to be Rasta's maid. Can you help out? If men were reliable, who the hell would want to date a bird? Old man, thinking I have no connection with another country. Dealing with that bitch called Rasta is really troublesome. She's illiterate and still insists on finding a noble maid. Do the nobles have no shame? It would be strange if anyone was willing to do it. What a sin, Emperor. The man is asking her to do this. Ravia still decided to do him a favor. She reluctantly invited the noble ladies and misses to attend her tea party. When the atmosphere was under her control, Ravia found an opportunity to express that she wanted to ask everyone for a favor. Your Majesty the Empress, please ask for help. The noble ladies naturally expressed their willingness to go through fire and water. However, when Ravia mentioned finding a maid for the Emperor's newly appointed consort, the scene instantly became very awkward. The silence was deafening. A more straightforward noblewoman said, "Isn't that Miss Rasta a runaway slave? Everyone present here is of high status." If a noble agreed, their ancestors would crawl out of their graves to slaughter them. There was no solution. After all that trouble, Ravia was exhausted. Unexpectedly, the golden bird from yesterday appeared again. Just like last time, the golden bird had a note tied to its toe. The note read, "I'm still smarter than a bird. I've completely sobered up now." Ravia smiled sweetly, her day's fatigue instantly vanishing. Ravia decided to write another reply, asking for the bird's name. She even gave the bird a kiss, which startled it so much its feathers puffed up. Saying goodbye, Ravia released the big bird again. Never in her life had she been so eager to receive a reply. However, joyful moments are always brief. The Emperor was always punctual when it came to ruining the mood. The old crow thought, just spit it out. Her Majesty still wants to play with the bird. As expected, the Emperor inquired again about finding a maid for Rasta. Ravia had no choice but to say she tried her best. But the Emperor clearly didn't think so. Perhaps it's not that the nobles are unwilling, but someone is spreading rumors that Rasta is a runaway slave. And that person wouldn't happen to be you, my dear Empress. Is it really jealousy at work between lovers? The idea of a love rival was laughable. Ravia found the Emperor's words disgusting to her core. She turned and left without hesitation. Trying to endure, she grew angrier. Ravia hid in her secret garden and cried softly. However, at that moment, Ravia heard the sound of a bird calling. Looking up, it was the golden bird she had been thinking of, returning with a reply. The big bird seemed pained seeing Ravia had been crying. It even stretched out a wing to caress Ravia's cheek. This so-called warm man could flirt anywhere. Even as a big bird, our Empress was completely charmed. Ravia was smitten by the cute big bird. With a flourish, she wrote, naming the nameless big bird Empress. Ravia announced its new name, ignoring the bird's bewildered expression. "Thank you, Empress. With your company, I feel much better." After playing for a while, the bird still flew away. After disappearing from sight, amidst swirling clouds, the golden bird began to transform again. It turned into a handsome man with a body like David's sculpture. Oh my, the name Empress is really awful. What Empress? A blue bird in the tree suddenly spoke. "You bastard, I sent you to scout, but you went flirting again." The next second, the blue bird also transformed into a human, angrily questioning Heinley. "Is it so hard to remember your status as the first heir of the Western Kingdom?" The palace intrigue continued. Rasta had become increasingly arrogant lately. She even came to play in the Empress's garden. Rasta even sat on the Empress's exclusive swing. Seeing the Empress appear, Rasta was instantly frightened and stuttered. She said she came to become closer to the Empress. Save that talk for the Emperor's future concubines. Seeing Rasta's reaction, Ravia pushed further, saying, "How faithful can a man really be?" This sentence directly broke through the Emperor's defenses. He walked straight into the Empress's chambers, demanding to know why Ravia had made his darling cry again. Ravia, suppressing her disgust, begged the Emperor to leave her alone. She also asked if the late Emperor had ever mentioned concubines so disrespectfully to the late Empress. The Emperor argued that Rasta was the Empress's subject. "Don't you think she's pitiful?" "I don't." The Emperor stormed out angrily. However, as soon as he left, Ravia was so upset she nearly collapsed. On the other hand, Rasta was happily sliding down an ice mountain. She was thrilled that the Emperor had gotten angry at the Empress for her sake. That night, the Emperor's two women had vastly different states of mind. As night fell, there was a tapping sound at the window. I opened the window to look, and it was actually Empress coming. Goodness, this bird has become magical, even knowing how to knock. Knocking is nothing. The little bird indicated it could also be mischievous. Climbing through windows so skillfully, one might think this was your room. Ravia teased the tired bird and unfolded the note. Only then did she realize this beautiful bird was actually male. No wonder the bird's feathers puffed up when she named it. The first time the Western Kingdom's prince met Ravia, he knelt on one knee. This was the rhythm of a proposal. Due to being busy with various affairs of state, Empress Ravia and the Emperor hadn't seen each other for quite some time. But welcoming guests required the Emperor and Empress to appear together. Both vied for the perfect silver leaf smile. The next guest was Prince Heinley of the Western Kingdom. Prince Heinley was so mysterious. Rumors about him were countless. Just focusing on that beautiful face, no girl could help but go crazy. Ravia saw the prince walking straight towards her. She inwardly sighed at the prince's stunning beauty. Whoever stood next to him would be surrounded by gossip the next second. Just as Ravia was about to curtsy and greet him, the prince suddenly knelt on one knee, took the Empress's hand, and placed a passionate kiss on it. "It's my honor to meet you, my Empress. I also hope you're satisfied with life in the palace." Heinley expressed his satisfaction. After all, it was so beautiful. So that night, Heinley transformed into a bird again. He braved the rain to find his Empress. The note read, "Let's make a bet. Whoever finds the other wins." Just for this bet, the Empress couldn't help but send a reply. "Your master is too cruel, making you work in the rain. So all right, what shall we bet on then?" The Empress excitedly extended her paw, hinting quickly, "Tie it on me," but she was seriously rejected. "It's raining so hard outside." Then she invited the Empress to sleep together. Heinley was so anxious. "I'm very conservative," but he couldn't refuse completely. Pinned down by the wings of fate, he couldn't move at all. Waking up in the morning, he saw the Empress chirping happily. Today's note read, "Please save the Empress." I must say, Heinley is truly cunning. The first hint he gave was that he's a man. After the little bird flew away, Heinley was suddenly informed that Prince Heinley was waiting for the Empress outside. Looking at Heinley, Ravia was puzzled. "What's with this person? He's been appearing before me lately. May I ask what business you have with me now?" Socially adept, Heinley wasn't bothered by Ravia's coldness at all. He hoped the Empress would give him a tour of the palace. "This person is strange. He keeps calling me Empress. Could he be Empress's master?" So Ravia agreed to his request. Heinley was delighted to hear this. He could take a walk with his beloved Empress. The two walked and talked in the magnificent palace. It was truly a harmonious scene. At that moment, a persistent voice came from not far away. "Your Highness, the Empress. You're also taking a walk." Rasta too. What a coincidence. She greeted Heinley very familiarly. "Hello, I'm Rasta." "Hello, I'm Heinley." The polite and handsome man left Rasta starstruck. He's just like a prince from a fairy tale. Who exactly is he? "This is the Prince of the Western Kingdom," Ravia introduced. "Wow, it's my first time meeting a real prince." "Then let Rasta introduce the palace to you." Jeff had nothing to do all day. Not only did he have to talk love with the Emperor, but he also had to take a walk with Ravia and Heinley. Facing Rasta's proposal, he expressed refusal. "I'm sorry, Miss Rasta. Three's a crowd." Completely disregarding Rasta's sudden change of expression, Empress, shall we go? Heinley turned away without hesitation. Along the way, Heinley was immersed in the annoyance from earlier. Rabia had been watching his expression the whole time. It was the first time she'd seen him show such a cold expression. Suddenly, Heinley stopped and asked the Empress, "Am I not handsome enough? It's strange. Other women go crazy for me at first sight. Why is the Empress so cold towards me? Am I not beautiful enough today? I put a lot of effort into my appearance today." Rabia's response was speechless. This guy is so narcissistic. Rabia instantly felt more relaxed. Then Heinley warmly explained, "I just saw you being so serious. I wanted to cheer you up." Was it that person? The Eastern Empire Emperor's new love. The topic was too embarrassing for Rabia to speak about. TCH, this Eastern Empire Emperor is really strange. To ignore such a perfect Empress. He even suggested if he could, as the Empress's guest, invite himself, erase His Majesty's name, and change it to Her Highness the Empress. This amused Rabia, and so, the New Year's celebration finally arrived. With the help of her maids, Rabia was dressing up and communicating with the Empress's master. The table was piled with notes. The Empress was standing at the window with her back turned. "He's male and shouldn't watch a girl dress." "Oh my, Empress, you're actually shy. How cute. I'll entrust today's note to you too. I really hope to see your master at the celebration." On the day of the first New Year's celebration banquet, the Emperor and Empress, dressed magnificently, walked hand in hand. However, unexpectedly, in this grand banquet hall, Rabia saw Rasta in the crowd again. How could she be here? Concubines weren't qualified to appear at social occasions. At this moment, the Emperor also saw Rasta. He let go of Rabia's hand without hesitation, surrounding Rasta and showing concern for her. The scene was too upsetting. Rabia decided to ignore it. She bumped into several duchesses. Everyone praised the Empress for personally organizing such a magnificent celebration. During the chat, someone's gaze shifted and saw Heinley shining at the banquet. Everyone started gossiping about his love life. The Empress remained silent, so she and Heinley silently toasted each other. The most frustrating thing in the world is that we could have been together for life, but one person took the wrong path and can never return to the past. The Empress's radiant figure at the banquet had already been praised to her face. At this moment, a noblewoman couldn't help but come forward to ask, "Your Highness, did you really send gifts to that woman?" "What gifts? I don't know anything about it." "Your Highness sent many valuable gifts to welcome her as His Majesty's mistress." "I didn't." Rabia gripped her wine glass tightly in anger. Soon, the dance was about to begin. Rabia turned to look in the Emperor's direction. It seemed the Emperor was begging to dance the first dance with Rasta. "Never mind. Consider it a rest." "Empress, so you're here." Suddenly, a familiar voice came from beside her. What caught her eye was a bright and beautiful rose. Heinley knelt on one knee, inviting Rabia to dance the first dance. "What? He wants to invite me, the Empress, to dance? What if some bad rumors spread? Who cares? I'm quite good at dancing." Rabia accepted Heinley's invitation, and they stepped onto the dance floor. The entire banquet hall was filled with dancing figures. Rabia and Heinley whispered to each other amidst the music. "The rumor about me sending gifts to Miss Rasta, do you believe that I didn't send them? If that's the case, thank you. I also won't believe the rumors about you being a playboy." Seeing Rabia so honest and adorable, Heinley burst out laughing. At this moment, the Emperor and Rasta came over, saying, "Let's switch partners." "Fine." Rabia agreed with an expressionless face. Finally, Rabia and the Emperor's hands clasped together. The familiar feeling reminded them of their childhood. Back then, they were so happy together. Now they were speechless facing each other. The atmosphere was good just a moment ago, but the Emperor suddenly stated that as the Empress of the Eastern Empire, she shouldn't do anything undignified. Whether you believe it or not, there's nothing between Prince Heinley and me. But clearly, the Emperor didn't listen. As soon as he saw Rasta having an accident, he quickly pushed Rabia away. Prince Heinley doesn't want to dance with Rasta, the Emperor comforted. "It's okay, I'm here." The onlookers' gazes were almost crushing Rabia. Rabia decided to skillfully turn and leave. In the quiet palace, two different sets of footsteps collided in the corridor. "Ah, it's the Empress. What a coincidence. Well, the palace is too big. I was afraid you'd get lost, so I followed you. Are you all right now?" Heinley asked Rabia, full of charm. "I'm fine. In others' eyes, I maintain my perfect image. Thank you for escorting me back. You should go back too." As soon as the door closed, Ravia's fake smile disappeared. She slumped to the ground, too emotionally exhausted to support her body. Just as Ravia was immersed in sadness, silently crying, a familiar bird call came from the window. It was the Empress, always appearing when she felt helpless. At this time, Duchess Elisa came to report, stating that Lady Beloti could no longer be her lady-in-waiting. She chose to be Rasta's lady-in-waiting. That woman, is she going to take everything I have one by one? Who exactly was the prince's secret correspondent? Was it an ordinary royal maid, the emperor's beloved's mistress, or the noble empress of the empire? After the news spread, everyone was making their own guesses. This secret would be revealed on the third day of the New Year's celebration. Today, Prince Heinlei's dance partner would be the person he had been corresponding with. The emperor looked at Heinley in disbelief. The woman next to Heinley was Rasta's maid. What was going on? The story goes back to last night. Rasta learned from Lady Beloti that the Empress was the one corresponding with Prince Heinley, so she sent her own maid to pretend to be the correspondent in front of Heinley. This was obviously impossible. Heinley decided to expose her lie in public the next day. So the scene of Heinley confronting the maid appeared. "Why did you lie to me? A maid of the Eastern Empire. How dare you deceive royalty? You're very bold." It was then that she panicked and was about to tell the truth. Heinley stopped her. He couldn't let her say the Empress's name. But come to think of it, you know the content of the letters, so you must know who the owner is. Who could it be? Heinley glanced towards the Empress, wanting to see Ravia's reaction. As a result, Rasta appeared and claimed to be the correspondent. This was her goal. She needed to be the one corresponding with Prince Heinley. She told Heinley, "The one you're looking for is me." These words shocked Ravia. Heinley was equally angry, but couldn't show it. He could only continue the act. Back in the Empress's chambers, Lola complained again about Rasta. "Empress, how can you tolerate this? She's been taking everything that belongs to you." "Don't worry. Prince Heinley knows it's not Rasta." Ravia comforted her maid at this point. A person can't fall into the same pit twice. Heinley is just pretending to be fooled. But why is he doing this? The next 2 days passed in boredom without the Empress's presence. Meanwhile, preparations for a special banquet were underway. Duke Kaufmann and Prince Heinley were the highlights of the banquet. Prince Heinley was more familiar with Duke Kaufmann, a guest from another continent. He came from a desert country called Kenberg. He was also the top student at the Magic Academy. Just as she was worrying about being impolite, she heard Rasta happily calling him sister. "It's her again. She's everywhere." He wasn't even on the guest list. How did he show up so eagerly again? So she walked straight past Rasta, ignoring him. The Princess of Lawn saw the Empress and said, "It's a pity. You missed quite a show." The dignified emperor of a country, about to duel with a neighboring prince over a mistress. It's ridiculous. The Empress learned from Swazi. Prince Heinley was fawning over Rasta in front of His Majesty. This made our Empress burst out laughing. "My goodness, I was wondering why the atmosphere was so awkward." However, at this moment, Heinley dropped his act. He directly revealed that Rasta had impersonated his pen pal. The situation reversed quite quickly. In the Emperor's eyes, Rasta couldn't possibly lie. The two argued over this issue for quite some time. It seemed about to escalate into a national issue. The scene reached a deadlock. Rasta, truly a top-tier actress, immediately burst into tears, claiming Heinley was discriminating against her background. Ravia felt helpless. She had to step in to clean up the mess. The Duke of Kimberg had already seen the farce. She couldn't let it continue. So Ravia stood up, stating that she knew the person corresponding with Prince Heinley wasn't Rasta. However, the Emperor didn't believe her. He thought the Empress disliked Rasta, so she sided with Heinley. "Ah, how sad. But for your Majesty, Miss Rasta's words are the truth." The Emperor's patience reached its limit. The other party angrily drew his sword, ready to duel. Although Heinley was absolutely confident, "As long as you promise not to seek revenge if you die, I'll finish you off." This is nonsense. Neither of these two bastards is sensible. I'll have to step in personally to pinch their butts. I'll ask the Emperor and Heinley to give me face. After all, this is still a royal gathering. It wouldn't look good if word got out. Faced with the Empress's way out, both men finally backed down. Accepting a temporary truce, the Empress immediately announced the end of the banquet. Afterwards, when no one else was around, Ravia couldn't help but ask Rasta, "Why did you lie about me giving you a gift?" Rasta was confused, saying she did receive a gift from the Empress. "Keep pretending," the Empress threatened. Sure enough, Rasta cried again. Coincidentally, as Rasta was whimpering, the Emperor and Heinley walked out of the reception room. Upon learning about the Empress's gift, it was the Emperor's turn to be embarrassed. He had to admit he gave Rasta gifts in the Empress's name. Rasta was touched after hearing this, but I was disgusted. Damn, these adulterers. You, an emperor, impersonating me to give gifts. How shameful. Rabia demanded the emperor apologize to her immediately. Don't spread false information anymore. The emperor felt Rabia was being unreasonable. How can you be so narrow-minded? You weren't like this before. Oh, my hot temper. Emperor, you shameless bastard. You dare to turn this on me. This is what they call love is blind. Looking at Rabia's cold face as she exposed the emperor, Heinle wished he could have this woman right now, immediately. If Rabia could scold him so fiercely, wouldn't that be absolute bliss? Just as Heinle was about to confess, someone came running, unceremoniously grabbing Heinle by the armpit and dragging him away. Brother, you're a prince of England. Can't you have some dignity? But unexpectedly, Heinle didn't care at all. The guard used one finger to turn him into a bird, ordering him to deliver a letter to Eleg. Having such a boss is really frustrating. My poor bird body. He couldn't help but let out a soulful lament. In the Empress's chambers, everyone was discussing Heinle. They thought their idol Heinle had torn Rasta apart this time, getting some revenge. But unexpectedly, someone was spreading rumors in the city that Rasta was so cute and charming that she made the emperor and Prince Heinle fight over her. This made the hot-tempered made Lola want to kill someone on the spot. Just then, the Empress suddenly appeared. Rabia gave the Empress an enthusiastic hug and opened the note on the bird's claw. Heinle complained, why didn't Rabia appear at the ball? Little did he know, Rabia was also helpless. The Empress of the Eastern Empire and the Prince of the Western Kingdom. If their private correspondence got out, it would be laughable. As the Empress, I can't ignore the royal family's reputation. I hope you can understand me. On the other side, Rasta was clinging to the Emperor, desperately wanting to attend the special banquet. Whenever there's a problem, this coward can only think of begging the Empress first. The Emperor suddenly asked the Empress for a spot. She thought it was for some important figure, but unexpectedly, the Emperor shamelessly said it was for Rasta. This is all Mia is capable of. Navia was so angry, she trembled. She turned and left without hesitation. At the special banquet in the Rose Hall, the already upset Navia met Duke Kinbert. Unexpectedly, because she couldn't manage Rasta, Dr. Bay mocked Rabia, crying out in grievance. It was clearly he who bullied Sobiechu, but he had to endure finger-pointing. At this moment, Heinle suddenly appeared behind Rabia. It's me, he said, indicating he knew the Empress was the correspondent. He had figured it out himself by deducing the relationship between Rosa Schienscher and the Empress. After learning this, the Empress didn't show any excitement, making Heinle feel sad. Heinle picked up a glass of wine, plucked up his courage, and told the Empress he sincerely wanted to be friends with her. After all, only he could say Sobiechu was a big jerk. Only him. No one is better at sweet talk than Prince Heinle. Even the usually coldest empress could be made to laugh by him. If you ask him the secret to making girls happy, Heinle says there's no technique, it's all emotion. He told Rabia that he could only keep everything in his heart, having to be mindful of his words and actions at all times. This made Rabia feel a sense of kinship, of being in the same boat. Being open-hearted completely made Rabia open up. He even said things like Sobiechu is a big jerk to make Rabia laugh. And he hoped that next time Rabia saw him, she wouldn't pretend not to know him. Just as the special banquet was in full swing, the noise from the regular banquet hall suddenly spread here. In fact, the team leader expressed great pressure, whispering to the Emperor that an accident had occurred in the grand banquet hall. This piqued Rabia's curiosity, but since no one called for her, she might as well enjoy the peace. It might be related to Rasta, better not to get involved in the mess. But because she had an appointment to meet with the maid Rola, she went to the banquet hall. Unexpectedly, it was as noisy as a marketplace here. Your Highness, there's shocking gossip. The rumor that Rasta is an escaped slave is true. She was a slave under Viscount Rodescu. He just recognized Rasta. His Majesty wasn't around, and no one stopped him. Rona's words made Rabia ponder. Did the Emperor really not know that Rasta was a runaway slave? Even if he knows now, it won't change his love for Rasta, right? I wonder what he'll do to salvage Rasta's reputation. I really don't want to get entangled with these two anymore. Meanwhile, Rasta, who had just experienced a shock, still couldn't escape the secret of falling ill with a high fever. The The emperor summoned Ravia to Rasta's bedchamber. The two faced each other, speechless. Don't you have anything to say? Faced with the emperor's questioning, Ravia didn't understand what he meant. Things have come to this point, and you don't even bat an eye. The emperor couldn't help but complain. So this is how cold-hearted I am in his eyes. Although your majesty is heartbroken over Rasta, don't use me as a punching bag. It was you who called Viscount Rhodesia here, wasn't it? The emperor jumped to conclusions in 7 seconds. I really don't know what you're talking about. The invitation was sent before Rasta entered the room. Didn't you consider him and withdraw the invitation? Ravia replied helplessly, that should have been done by you. You're so heartless. You're truly a vicious woman. Such cruel words tore Ravia's heart apart. The person she grew up with since childhood actually viewed her this way. The goddess's love for you is too heavy. What if she has to feed you insects? After being hurt by the emperor, Ravia turned a corner and ran into Heinley. His sad eyes and caring hands had nowhere to rest. Did your husband insult you again? If only he could have been born 5 years earlier, he could have stolen Ravia away. This was just Heinley's beautiful imagination. He could only agree to let the Empress accompany Navia. Navia was delighted to hear this and suggested, let's go back together to see the Empress's bird. This sentence scared Heinley to death. What kind of excuse could he use to refuse going with the Empress to see the bird? Under Heinley's puzzled gaze, the Empress asked what was wrong with the bird. The Empress is very busy. No, if we go to see him together, the Empress will surely be embarrassed. Heinley hurriedly explained, what is the Empress like? He likes your highness, the Empress. After saying this, he suddenly became shy, his whole face turning red. Ravia found it amusing, but thought he was truly innocent. I wanted to know what food the Empress likes. Oh, so it was about food. As long as it's prepared by your highness, he will like it very much. The Empress in the palace would have to face a large basin of wriggling insects. He still felt strongly uncomfortable, but aren't birds supposed to eat insects? Finally, when the Empress arrived, enduring nausea for the sake of the adorable Empress was nothing. Upon hearing that Ravia had something for him, the Empress's eyes instantly lit up. This was the food she had specially prepared for the handsome bird. Heinley, the whole bird, was stunned. Mother, save me. The insects accidentally fell onto his wings. The whole bird felt awful. Ravia watched the crying Empress run away, feeling very doubtful. Shortly after, Heinley confirmed that the Empress didn't like eating insects, not even cooked ones. The two talked about Ravia's birthday, wondering if they should have a meal together. At this moment, the Emperor suddenly appeared, interrupting. He said he had something to discuss privately with the Empress. Heinley watched Ravia about to leave, his eyes filled with sadness. He hoped the Empress wouldn't stir up any rumors with the Playboy Prince. Ravia couldn't be bothered to say more. As she was about to leave, she heard Sobiech's apology. It seemed his mind had finally returned to normal. Ravia forgave him. The Emperor suggested reconciliation and proposed going to the villa for her birthday. As part of the Empress's duty, she must show the people that there's no resentment between the Emperor and Empress. Ravia finally agreed. The Emperor trusted her and also entrusted the matter of establishing relations with Kinbert to the Empress. After the Emperor left, unexpectedly, she saw Heinley waiting by the hot spring. The Empress lent him her handkerchief to wipe his hands. Surprisingly, after wiping his hands, Heinley tucked the handkerchief into his pocket. He treasured it. Heinley was still the best at flirting. Putting the goddess's handkerchief in his pocket, he wouldn't need an excuse next time they met. But Ravia suddenly dropped a bombshell. We can't have dinner together on my birthday. I have to go to the villa with His Majesty. I'm really sorry. Their dinner plan came to nothing. Back at his residence, Heinley was very troubled, selecting a ring as a birthday gift for the Empress. He boasted proudly, "Have you seen this extremely precious handkerchief? Quickly tied around my neck. Hurry up, I want to show it to the Empress." From the lettering on the handkerchief, the guard guessed who had been corresponding with Heinley. Meanwhile, in the library, Heinley hurriedly came to find Ravia again. He showed off his cute little scarf. "Empress, look at me. Am I handsome?" Ravia looked and thought, he's really so cute and obedient. It has Prince Heinley's scent. What? This is so embarrassing for the bird. Heinley hurriedly flew back. She said my scent is so embarrassing. The guard, however, was gritting his teeth. Your blatant behavior is truly an eyesore. You didn't put on that little scarf and dress up nicely to see Empress Navia, did you? Falling in love with another country's empress is absolutely forbidden. Did you hear that? Being your guard is truly frustrating. He immediately ran into Rasta. Heinley's attitude towards him was still lukewarm. Unexpectedly, he thought Heinley was truly radiant. because those who used to flatter him were now speaking ill of him. Only Prince Heinle remained the same as before. It's so touching. Heinle couldn't care less about him. He turned and left. At the meeting for establishing relations with Kinbert, Ravia attended as the person in charge. Ravia asked the Duke why he recommended her to be in charge. However, the scene of the two talking appeared extremely irritating in the Emperor's eyes. Empress, do you like foreigners? Prince Reno is like this with Kinbert, and the Duke is the same. I hope you won't become an Empress that makes me worry. Regarding her husband's groundless accusations, Navia wanted to explain that she was only discussing the establishment of relations. Then she left. There were still many things that needed her attention. By the time everything was dealt with, she was overwhelmed with worries. At this moment, Rasta suddenly appeared. He asked the Empress if all men were circling around the Duchess of Tuania. There was a reason for asking this. Because his scandal needed another person's scandal to cover it up. This was what his friend Eleg taught him. The fact that he had been with Viscount Rodeshia's son and had a child was unexpectedly being used by the Viscount to threaten him. What he hadn't expected was that the child he thought didn't exist was actually alive. All of this was making him unhappy. The scandal about him discussing slaves was still spreading. Viscount Landley falling in love with the Duchess at first sight was a breakthrough in solving the problem. The unfaithful Emperor wanted to reconcile with the Empress. He even wanted to kiss the Empress. You scumbag, let go of the Empress quickly. The tree they planted together as children has now grown into a towering tree. However, the person by their side is no longer the youth who planted the tree together back then. The brief moments of warmth between them only occur when reminiscing about the past. With 5 days left until Ravia's birthday, she received many gifts one after another. The most unique one was this piece of love elixir. Before she could think about how to deal with this elixir, the Empress came with the gift in his beak. Prince Heinle is really not considerate at all. You're doing such heavy work, and you're still shaking your head. The gift from Prince Heinle turned out to be a self-made cake. But the cake was delicious. Your master is really a good person. However, unexpectedly, there was a dazzling jewel inside the cake. This gift is too valuable. When Ravia was extremely troubled, Heinle suddenly burst into tears. Wah, the goddess doesn't want to accept my feelings. I want to leave this heartbreaking place. This made Navia have to personally visit Heinle's residence. The visit came at the right time. He had just run back crying. Oh no, it was the prince's bird that ran back crying. Unexpectedly, when the door opened, she saw Heinle with his collar wide open. Those snow-white pecs made her not know where to look. I came specially to thank you. It was delicious. Also, how is the Empress? I just saw him fly away in tears. He couldn't say it was because Ravia refused to accept the gift and was heartbroken. Heinle had to find a random excuse to brush it off. Empress, do you feel that the gift I sent is too valuable? But the Western Kingdom is rich in jewels, and most of the mines belong to the royal family. I hope you don't feel too burdened. Now I understand why people say Prince Heinle is a playboy. It's because he's really too gentle and considerate. Heinle was troubled. His friend Eleg was the real playboy. He was just taking the blame. Also, I hope, Empress, that you won't be so dazzling in front of my friend Eleg. You just need to stand there to captivate everyone. The day before her birthday, the Emperor had urgent matters, so Ravia had to go to the palace first. Even if she resented the Emperor in her heart, she couldn't divorce him. She could only try to reconcile. Meanwhile, after the Emperor dealt with Rasta's unreasonable demands, he finally made a smart decision and didn't bring Rasta to the palace for a 3-person trip. Unfortunately, shortly after the Emperor arrived at the palace, Ravia noticed signs that he seemed to have a fever. Seeing the Empress so close to Lanjan, the Emperor seized the opportunity to present a gift. While putting on the necklace, he kissed Ravia's neck. Ravia felt very uncomfortable with the Emperor's signals of wanting to get intimate. In the end, she silently refused. Although I cheated and brought my mistress home, I don't use flowery words, so I'm a good man. Ravia really couldn't swallow this kind of good man. They could only part unhappily. The Emperor's intention to kiss was not fulfilled. He could only dine alone afterwards. But unexpectedly, the Empress miraculously appeared at the window, with tears in both eyes. He flew forward and hugged Ravia. Are you comforting me? What a cute bird, she said, giving it a series of kisses. I wonder where Prince Heinle found such a smart and obedient bird. Heinle spread his wings. There's no bird more handsome and majestic than me. Just as the person and the bird were having a warm conversation, a shout suddenly came from inside. It's not good. The emperor has fainted. Unable to follow the empress's diet plan, with a reluctant gaze, Ravia rushed towards the emperor without looking back. Although Ravia was unhappy with the emperor, she still had to take on the mission of caring for him. Such beautiful days are always fleeting. A week later, Ravia finally returned from the palace with the emperor. I don't care at all about the emperor and Rasta's affairs. She only focuses on official duties and even helps the emperor beside her handle affairs. On this day, at a party prepared by the Duchess of Tuania, Rasta informed everyone that the Duchess of Tuania had 5 lovers. This green tea talk made people furious. But this was just the first step in Rasta's scandal creation. Now, people can't abandon the Duchess because of this vague rumor. It's not enough. We need to add more fuel to the fire. After exchanging ideas with Rasta, Eleg has been guarding Ravia, because during the previous week at the palace, Rasta was very worried that the Empress would steal the Emperor. Eleg came up with a bad idea, which was to seduce the Empress himself. And that's how we got to the current scene. It's really troublesome. They're not innocent little birds. He's like me, we're both playboys. Before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the Emperor. Looking at Eleg's retreating figure, he couldn't help but sigh that the Empress was really popular among foreigners. Empress, you've only been with me. Men who use such flowery words are not good men. Then what kind of man is a good man? That's a good question. Me, the Emperor's inexplicable confidence. I really don't know who gave you this confidence. Well, since you say foreigners are not good, then I'll look among the young men in our country. The Emperor was stunned. He said, "Do as you please," then stomped on the floor loudly and left, pretending to be relaxed. It seems this man has double standards. He can have affairs himself, but he goes berserk if you have other thoughts. I have affairs, but I'm a good man. If you want to find a lover, you're not a good empress. Scumbags really have double standards. The emperor asked Rasta if the empress and Eleg were getting close. Could it be that Eleg is really implementing his own suggestion and decided to seduce the empress? I told him to do so. Rasta smiled and explained that the empress and Eleg are not very familiar. But the ring I gave you before, why haven't I seen you wear it? What should I do? Should I say I gave the ring to Viscount Rodeshiu to keep him quiet? So Rasta, with tears in his eyes, said he didn't know it was a magic ring and gave it to a poor maid. When I asked Viscount Rodeshiu the next day, I found out he had already sold the ring. Never mind that for now. You go find some dirt on the Duchess of Tuania first. After the private transaction, Rasta happened to meet Ravia on the road. Your Highness the Empress, don't you already have Prince Heinley as a good friend? Please don't take Duke Eleg away. He's my only friend. Ravia was indifferent. You covet my things, but I'm not interested in yours. The Empress of the Eastern Empire hasn't fallen so low as to steal from others, she said, and left. On the Emperor's side, he wanted to borrow the Empress's desert flower to heal Rasta. Let me explain to Rasta. I can agree, but I have one condition. Your Majesty should also offer a treasure as collateral. I might lend it to others too. Your Majesty doesn't like me associating with foreigners, so I'll find someone among the country's youth. Unexpectedly, the Emperor wanted to act first after hearing this. If you don't want to lend it, then don't. Why so many excuses? The Emperor left unhappily. Later, the king went out for a walk and saw Heinley with a blue bird. This blue bird had an angry donkey face. Who could stand it? Not doing proper work all day and pretending to be a pet in front of the boss's secret crush. Ravia was curious about this. Can I hold him? Of course not. His own subordinate touching his goddess. That certainly can't be allowed. Heinley cleverly let the blue bird fly away to avoid it competing for affection. But last time I heard from Eleg that you had made some plan. Heinley was also helpless. He didn't want to lie to Ravia, but the truth couldn't be spoken. Back at his residence, Heinley's entire bird body felt unwell. He was so worried that Ravia would distance herself because of this. Meanwhile, Ravia quickly sought to investigate what Renaud and Eleg had prepared before coming to the Eastern Empire. On the other side, Rasta received intelligence about the Duchess of Tuania. It turned out that the Duke's brother, Sir Manion, fell in love with his brother's Fianca copyrightee. In the end, he didn't win the goddess's favor, and she married his brother. Unable to bear the blow, he went to the Guanyin Temple. But he committed suicide in less than a week at the Guanyin Temple. Most fatally, the Duchess gave birth to a child less than 7 months after the wedding. I'll take every word you say seriously. I want to fulfill every wish of yours. This is the warm-hearted Heinley. Even if it's just a joke, he wants to make it come true for you. even if he has to turn into a little bird. On the other side, Rasta was very satisfied with the intelligence. Now it's time to spread the news. It's said that before Sir Manian's death, a beautiful noblewoman visited many times. The Duke of Tuania was already very dissatisfied. Just a little stimulation would make this rumor spread like wildfire. This way, the scandal of Rasta being an escaped slave could be covered up. Meanwhile, the emperor coincidentally found the ring that Rasta supposedly gave to a maid. He was overjoyed, thinking that maid must know how kind Rasta is. Unexpectedly, the ring wasn't passed on from the maid's hands, but from Viscount Rodesia's hands. The emperor was puzzled and went to ask Rasta about this matter. Rasta explained, "Your Majesty, I gave 2 rings. I can't distinguish which one was given to the maid and which to Viscount Rodesio." The emperor was angry after hearing this. To prevent Rasta from being threatened or blackmailed, he prohibited her from using the consumption fund. On the other side, Ravia was still tirelessly serving as a public servant. She went to the magic city of Orwell, although she learned that the empire's magicians were decreasing. Unexpectedly, Heinley was also an exchange student at this magic academy. Not long after, Ravia coincidentally met Heinley. It was truly a destined encounter. This person was infinitely disdainful. Is there such a thing as a coincidental encounter after flying day and night? Since it's such a coincidence, we should have a meal together to not waste this fate. After some trivial topics, now I'll start the real probing. What kind of magic is Prince Heinley good at? I'm good at flying in the sky. Such an amazing skill to fly in the sky. Can you take me flying? Empress, you're too heavy for me. I can't bear that weight at all. However, Ravia misunderstood. All right, I know I'm heavy. Your Highness, that's not what I meant. Woo. Obviously, Ravia wouldn't believe it. Returning to the palace from the magic city, Ravia heard explosive news. After meeting alone with the Duchess of Tuania, Eleg made some ambiguous remarks. The Duchess immediately slapped him. Then Eleg's ex-girlfriend jumped out and started fighting with the Duchess. After learning the latest news from the palace, unexpectedly, the Empress appeared. After a moment of drinking water to replenish energy, he seemed to want to take Ravia somewhere, but no matter what, he couldn't manage to take off with his beloved Empress. What a useless bird. Heinley felt utterly defeated. Ravia was very confused about this. Did you want to take me somewhere? Heinley looked at his useless wings with sorrowful eyes, then silently flew away. How much of a scumbag can a man be to make even birds stunned by his behavior? It's shocking, my friend. With her spending restricted, Rasta had to ask Ravia, can I get an advance on the mistress's allowance? However, the righteous Ravia said no. You should ask for His Majesty's opinion first. The Empress is so cold-hearted. How annoying. Eleg, however, said, I can lend you money, but since you're borrowing, you might be tricked. You need to tell me what happened. Rasta was touched and thought, I'll tell him I might be pregnant. That should be fine, right? A few days later at the masquerade ball, although she was wearing a red dress. Unexpectedly, Rasta was also wearing a red dress. The two ended up in matching outfits. Your Highness, are you imitating me? How could she say such a thing? Who was it that always followed the Empress and imitated her words and actions before? Just like a stalker. Do you think I need to imitate you? Ravia was very disdainful of this. Sitting in her seat, she was surrounded by gossiping voices. Everyone thought the Empress, who appeared later, had imitated Rasta. In this situation, Rasta also shed pitiful tears. The audience felt even more that she was the victim. I told the Empress to wear a red dress. Unexpectedly, the scumbag showed such awareness after learning the news, thinking he finally understood how to care for his wife. It turned out he just didn't want to damage the royal family's image. He even had a very helpless expression after saying this. Living together, they unconsciously entered argument mode. I really want to know, what exactly did you learn from living with the Empress Dowager before? Arguing without admitting defeat. If we could put aside our royal status and talk frankly about this, I would definitely tell you. The Empress said, let's not. You've said this before, and then I got a good scolding. At this time, Ravia noticed that the Emperor wasn't jealous or angry about Rasta talking with the Duke of Tuania. Instead, he came to chat with Ravia, looking like he'd lost his wife. The following days were more exciting than ever. The Duke of Tuania wanted a divorce due to rumors. Then Landley, an admirer of the Duchess of Tuania, attempted to assassinate Rasta. At the assassination scene, he kept shouting that Rasta had ruined the Duke of Tuania. What the Duchess never expected was that during Rasta's treatment, it was confirmed that Rasta was pregnant. The next day, The emperor stood before the empress like a guilty schoolboy, reporting Rasta's pregnancy. It was too sad. The mistress was pregnant before her. Ravia couldn't bring herself to offer congratulations. After informing Ravia of this, seeing her poor expression, the emperor tactfully left. The empress, knowing everything, appeared at the window. The whole bird was shocked. The emperor of the Eastern Empire was truly a sight to behold. Before the empress could divorce the scumbag, her good friend Heinle was about to return to his country. Upon hearing the shocking news from the Eastern Empire, the empress gave Ravia a comforting hug. Then he quickly transformed into Heinle, and Ravia extended a friendly hug. "It's nice. This guy still has the empress's scent. Your Highness, you smell so good and feel so soft. I want to cuddle." Unexpectedly, as they hugged, Heinle's face turned red. After all, with his goddess in his arms, it's hard not to have some thoughts. But speaking of Heinle, you're so beautiful. If you were a woman, the emperor would have fallen for you already. I must say, your Highness has a unique way of complimenting people. The emperor falling for me. That scenario sounds very strange. If I were a woman, I'd rather be the empress's maid, always by your side. After the afternoon tea, the Duchess of Tuania came to Ravia for help. She hoped to save Viscount Lanley's life, as the emperor had ordered his execution because of Rasta. After receiving the latest news from Viscount Lanley in prison, she obtained evidence of Rasta's lies, then went to negotiate with the emperor, hoping to change his sentence to exile. The emperor was naturally unwilling. The one who hurt my woman should live. In the end, it was the empress's strong stance that made the emperor compromise. He said he needed the evidence in her possession, but as he read more, he became increasingly shocked. The innocent flower he thought he knew had done so much behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Ravia was feeling down about Rasta's pregnancy. The empress's little pet appeared with a letter in its beak. It turned out that Heinle's father was seriously ill, so he might not be able to stay in the Eastern Empire for long. Then Heinle transformed into a human male and eagerly appeared before Ravia, suggesting they take a walk together. But his arm is so muscular. What was Ravia thinking? What am I thinking about? How shameless. It seems you still like exercise. This sentence accidentally slipped out, as it seems His Majesty likes exercise. This made Heinle laugh out loud. Then I should immediately withdraw my hand. I'm angry. As a result, Heinle continued saying, "My chest doesn't like exercise." Really, how mischievous this prince is. But how is your brother's health? He's not in immediate danger for now. At this moment, the beautiful sunset came into view, but both of them forgot to speak. Heinle looked at the empress sadly. "Your Highness, if I have to return to the Western Kingdom, will you miss me?" But the empress hasn't divorced yet, and you're leaving already. The bird let out a mournful cry. Ravia's response was to turn her head away. She would surely miss him very much, because she was afraid that if she saw Heinle's face, she would burst into tears. Just when she finally had a true friend, was he going to leave her? Two men were jealous over Ravia. The emperor yelled angrily, "You're not allowed to cuckold me." But he was still deeply in love with Rasta, giving her whatever she wanted. Behind happiness often lies filth. Eleg sent back news that the child raised by Viscount Rodeshiu was indeed Rasta's child. It looked exactly like her. What? But I don't have money to silence the Viscount. Don't worry. Eleg immediately signed a check, saying, "I'll lend you as much as you need." The Empress also received news about Viscount Rodeshiu. It was said he was moving near the palace and looking for a wet nurse. It seems Rasta was being blackmailed. The Rodeshiu family is only now becoming prominent. But what did that have to do with her? Ravia unconsciously touched that bottle of love potion. Ravia scoffed at it. Love potion, it sounds ridiculous. But her mind was still conflicted. Could this be a bottle of poison? The next day, while discussing strategy with Duke Kaufman, she forgot about the potion. This potion does have some effect. After drinking it, you'll fall in love with the first person you see. You don't believe me? Then I'll drink it and show you its effect. Before Ravia could stop him, she saw the Duke's expression change. Unexpectedly, the Emperor burst through the door at that moment. What's going on? The scene had a strange feeling of catching someone in the act. The Emperor was certainly not pleased. You try it too. What was he muttering about? Unexpectedly, as he tugged on the Duke's sleeve, he felt completely off. A man with a flushed face was looking at him with teary eyes. Your Majesty, you look exceptionally handsome and radiant today. This scared the Emperor so much that he immediately fled. Goodbye to you. Duke, are you jealous of me? Ravia misunderstood. Duke, have you fallen in love with Emperor Kaufman? The Duke was extremely wronged. It's clearly you that I love. Every breath you take makes me want to. Thinking the drug's effect would wear off the next day, the Duke would return to normal. Unexpectedly, he appeared before Ravia all dressed up and shining. "I missed you so much I could hardly breathe." Ravia asked if there was an antidote. After all, the Duke had given her the potion. The antidote didn't work at all. Only then did Ravia realize who had sent this gift. The Emperor finally came to his senses. The next day, the Duke was blushing because of Ravia. "I don't think so. He clearly blushed when he saw your majesty." This made the Emperor shudder all over. As soon as Ravia went out, she asked Heinley, who was holding blank documents, "Is that so?" To avoid Ravia's suspicion, he's using the swallow as cover. The king of the Western Kingdom was seriously ill. Heinley had to return to hear his brother's last words. Unexpectedly, the Duke appeared and immediately gave Heinley a laser-like glare. "You're not allowed to stick together." The Duke stood in front of Heinley. He naturally said things like, "I'm jealous." Jealous men are indeed frightening. The two almost came to blows. Fortunately, the guards appeared just in time. "Your Highness, there's an urgent matter that requires your attention." "My child is your child. After all, you are my wife. Even if the child isn't yours, you still have to accept it with a smile." The Duke had something he wasn't sure whether to say or not. As soon as the Emperor appeared, he asked Ravia, Prince Mishel, Heinley, or Kaufman. The Duke said, "No matter what, I hope you mind your image during this period." "You mean I should watch my words and actions for Rasta's child?" "What's wrong with that? A royal child is also your child." "That's nonsense. How could a diligent child be the Empress's child?" "Empress, you're too selfish and don't take me seriously." Then, the Duke's fist helpfully landed on the Emperor's face. The commotion caught the attention of the royal guards. Everyone rushed forward to surround the Duke. "Put down your weapons." The Emperor was confident the Duke wouldn't act rashly. "Forcing your wife to accept your child with your mistress is truly despicable." "So what? Don't the men of Kembert keep mistresses too? All crows are black. I won't send you to prison, but forget about trade relations with Kembert." Even Heinley clenched his fists in anger due to the argument with the Duke. He was originally just curious about the Empress, but now he saw her adorable side. He felt sorry for her, having to maintain a perfect image while facing a mistress. The shameless Emperor, making the Empress suffer such humiliation. If he were by the Empress's side, he would surely protect her from harm. Coming to his senses, he dealt with the urgent matter. Walton was critically ill. That night, Heinley turned into a large bird again. He flew to Ravia's window, about to leave. Looking at her one last time, Heinley's eyes were full of sorrow. He silently flew away under Ravia's worried gaze. The next day, Ravia went to see the Emperor, hoping he would reconsider trade relations with Kembert, as it was a matter of great importance. The Emperor was still hung up on yesterday's incident. "A mistress is a mistress. You are the Empress. Don't do anything to disgrace the nation." So the Emperor and Ravia parted on bad terms again. Soon after, Ravia met Heinley. Autumn has arrived. The Empress should keep warm. Heinley thoughtfully draped a blanket over Ravia. "I'm about to leave for the Western Kingdom. If we can still correspond." The Empress couldn't finish. The blue bird of the original wife came over. Ravia received a letter from the Duchess of Tuania. She decided to leave this place. The wolf following Viscount lie. They're all leaving. This palace is truly so cold. Unexpectedly, Ravia fell ill the next day. When Ravia felt a bit better and was resting in the garden, the Emperor actually came to express concern. Soon he said, "I want to hold a banquet to welcome the first child." Seeing the Empress's expression, the Emperor asked, "Are you that dissatisfied? I didn't want to attend in the first place, and you're making me responsible for the banquet." "Of course I'm dissatisfied." The Emperor was helpless. "You don't understand my good intentions in holding this banquet. This child might very well become the Empress's child. After all, you might not be able to bear children." Great news. The Emperor was being cuckolded and didn't even know it. The Emperor was troubled by Ravia's dislike of his child. What troubled him more was that the Empress's brother, his brother-in-law Xiangla, was about to return to the royal city. If the hot-tempered brother found out that the mistress was pregnant before the Empress, the palace would surely be turned upside down. After Heinley left, the Duke also came to say goodbye. "Come with me. Empress, leave that man. As long as you nod, I'm willing to prepare everything for you." "Duke, although you're sincere now, it's only because the drug's effect hasn't worn off." Ravia refused the Duke's offer. She was the Empress. From beginning to end, being the Empress was her dream. Even if betrayed by her husband, she wouldn't abandon her duty. This idea is too dangerous. What if the Emperor proposes divorce? After all, people blinded by love can do unimaginable foolish things. All right, I can't persuade you. Let's hug and say goodbye. After the Duke left, Kashang arrived at the Empress's chambers with a large gift. What's wrong? Why is your shoulder wet? Ravia was also in disbelief. Did the Duke cry just now? Seeing his sister's melancholic expression, Kashang was immediately ignited. He already knew about the mistress's pregnancy. Where is that woman? I want to go and destroy her. Brother, please endure for my sake. Otherwise, others will take advantage of it. Brother, look at the hat you gave me. Isn't it beautiful? Ravia was absolutely radiant. However, Kashang, who was already upset, now discovered the invitation to Rasta's banquet. This despicable couple infuriated him. Scared, Ravia could do nothing but turn away. Meanwhile, Heinley was listening to his brother's last words. I hope you marry soon, take a princess, and take care of your sister-in-law. He passed away shortly after. King Warren III was announced dead. Ravia was also worried that Prince Heinley would be heartbroken because of this. That injured bird descended from the sky, bringing Heinley's letter. I need comfort. My Empress. Tears have wet this letter. It seems she's very sad. What could he say to comfort her? It seemed no words would be useful. While the Empress was unhappy, Rasta's life wasn't much better either. Viscount Rodeshu asked her for money again. Living in a big house wasn't enough. He even brought that child to the capital. He even brought the Viscount's children and her ex along. She had endured such pain to give birth to that child, thinking the Viscount had smashed it to pieces. Unexpectedly, it was still alive, raised by the man who had once abandoned her. It was laughable. On the other side, Heinley in the Western Kingdom was overwhelmed. He remembered his brother's last words, but in Heinley's view, a queen should be like Ravia, full of love for him, yet able to be a role model for the country. I advise you to give up, suggested the guard. You're already busy enough, and now you want to go to the Eastern Empire. Out of thousands of streams, he only wanted one cup. Such was Heinley's infatuation with Ravia. Your Majesty, you should stop daydreaming. Empress Ravia will never marry you. You should settle down in the Western Kingdom and find someone to marry here. There are many outstanding women in the world, but there's only one in my heart. Even those who look like her are meaningless. While Heinley was troubled by Ravia, Ravia was unsettled because of Rasta's child. If she never had a child in this life, she would have to please Rasta's child. Despite her intense dislike, she still attended Rasta's friendship banquet. She presented her gift, an incredibly ornate sword. May your child be as brilliant and dazzling as this sword. Although the Emperor looked displeased at this blessing, he ultimately didn't comment. Rasta was still gloating. What about the Empress? She still has to accept my child. Then she saw Aaron, her former lover, in the crowd at the banquet. Why is he here? Suddenly, others noticed her unease. When she looked again, that man in the crowd had disappeared. Her friend Eleg came to ask what was wrong. Rasta had to change the subject to the gift the Empress gave her child. She looked around at this sword. Eleg laughed unkindly. Don't you know, this sword, though priceless, is just for show. The Empress means she hopes your child will be a lazy person who enjoys wealth and luxury. What? That's what it means. The Empress has insulted me. The Emperor noticed Rasta's unease and hurried over to comfort his sweetheart. Your Majesty, the Empress ignores me like this. What if she bullies the prince or princess in the future? Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, the atmosphere at the banquet suddenly became tense. The Emperor's face darkened. How thoughtless. Let's talk over there. Rasta, your child can't become a prince or princess. Only the Empress's children can. Unless the Empress remains childless, then your child might be adopted by her. Only then could they become a prince or princess. But Rasta was furious about this. After all, the Empress knew the sword's meaning wasn't good. Although you insult me, I choose to endure it all. After all, your Majesty has told me the Empress can't get pregnant. She'll become this child's adoptive mother in the future. What did you just say? Already displeased seeing this woman, now hearing her say his sister was infertile right in front of him. Kashang, who had been following his sister, couldn't take it anymore. Unexpectedly, this shock caused Rasta's stomach to act up. That day, Rasta was sent back to her chambers. The Emperor advised her kindly not to provoke Kashang. Moreover, I heard you said the Empress is infertile. Anyone would be angry hearing that. The Empress first said she was a worthless person, but your Majesty didn't believe it. Rasta had no choice but to lie. Rasta didn't say the Empress was infertile. Besides, I'm pregnant. You can't push me, can you? You say Kashyang pushed you. The emperor, hearing this, considered the possibility and ordered Kashyang not to enter or leave the palace. The mistress gets scared while pregnant. The empress's fault. The mistress is given abortion medicine. The empress's fault. Kashyang, restricted from travel, was furious. He hadn't even touched that woman with a finger. Yet his sister still asked him to endure. That woman was no good. He couldn't sit idly by. He had to strike first, catch that woman's weakness. Meanwhile, in the Western Kingdom, Heinley was preparing to meet the 12th potential bride. Just because this woman spoke with the former queen, attempting to take away her rights. Miss, I heard everything you said. This is not your concern. The position of queen. Don't even think about it. Watching Heinley drive away the potential bride, Michaela was devastated. If you want to provoke Empress Ravia, it will lead to war. But Ravia's people won't like a queen chosen this way. So Heinley continued to write to Ravia, advising her to become the Western Kingdom's queen. Speaking of which, Blue Bird, you're just like a person, quite the expression king. Ravia sent someone to deliver the letter. Blue Bird, don't come over. I'm afraid Heinley will kill me. Seeming to understand Blue Bird's thoughts, Ravia focused on replying to the letter. Without answering the queen topic, she only wrote that she would arrange time to attend the coronation ceremony. Before the boyfriend could leave with the letter, Ravia learned that abortion medicine was found in Rasta's test results. Strangely, this time, they didn't call Ravia for questioning. After all, whenever something happened to Rasta, the Empress was always suspected. But in the Emperor's eyes, it was all the Empress's fault. Even if the Empress didn't personally administer the abortion medicine, it was because of something the Empress said that provoked Kashyang in the inner palace to instruct someone to administer it. The Emperor saw Ravia coming and said, if the culprit is your brother, you come and apologize to me. To investigate whether her brother was responsible, Ravia questioned her brother's close friend, Pyrrhon. Unexpectedly, it was true that her brother had secretly given Rasta the medicine. Soon after, the Western Kingdom sent an invitation for the coronation ceremony. The emperor saw that Ravia was invited. He immediately stated that the Eastern Empire's empress was too busy and couldn't attend personally. Heinley, as if connected to Ravia's heart, sent another message to confirm if Ravia could come to the Western Kingdom. Helplessly, Ravia had to admit she couldn't go. She couldn't possibly start a war. Michaela, this bird, was stunned. The Empress not going, how would she report back? That night, Ravia apologized to the Emperor for her brother's actions. The Emperor said it wasn't necessary. I kept this matter quiet to maintain your dignity as Empress. Next time, I will definitely protect my child. Meanwhile, Heinley was reading a report on the Eastern Empire's fear of declining magicians. Michaela appeared at the window, looking utterly desperate. When Heinley learned that Ravia couldn't come, he was very sad. The Eastern Empire, because she couldn't move him, was about to cause a commotion. Did Sabian blame the Empress? Heinley was very worried about Ravia. He gave this letter to Eleg. Her ex-husband not only stole her husband and got pregnant, but also wanted to steal her guard. It was too shameless. As a result, the emperor held a banquet because his mistress's health improved. Unexpectedly, at the banquet, they saw Labette, Viscount Rodesia's daughter. Just as Labette was about to say something difficult to this woman, she was pulled away by her brother. Damn them. Why did they have to appear before her? Rasta met with Arlen in private regarding this man, who explained why he abandoned her. Rasta didn't want to listen at all. Just like you back then, now I have everything, so I'm afraid of losing you and your sister. Don't appear before me again. By chance, she met Eleg, who had received Heinley's letter. Eleg hadn't expected the person to appear so quickly. With a few words, he provoked Rasta into saying she disliked the Empress. If you want to resist the Empress's attacks, only by becoming the Empress yourself can you determine your own fate. Just falsely claim you're a noble's daughter lost in the mortal world. Find someone to impersonate your parents. Then your background will no longer be an obstacle to becoming Empress. Use your past commoner life experiences to gain sympathy and approval from the common people. The emperor was also worried about Rasta. The nobles still didn't respect Rasta enough. There were still several groups investigating Rasta's background. Rasta had recently been insisting on learning noble etiquette. The emperor was also troubled. He thought if she wants to learn, let her learn. On the Empress's side, Rolla was elated. It was he who instructed Norbert to only recognize Rasta, making her embarrass herself in front of everyone. After all, the Empress wasn't a pushover. You've bullied me. It's impossible to still play the saint. As for Eleg, when asked about Ravia's feelings towards Rasta, the answer was the same. Hey, can you hit me? To ease my guilt, I can't tell you that I've been pulling strings behind the scenes, wanting to push you down from your position. The clever Ravia, combining Eleg's unusual behavior, associated it with Heinlei's previous plan. There must be some connection between these two. Viscount Rodescu was still in high spirits recently. He was wealthy, had children of both sexes, and a free money tree. However, recently his daughter needed to attend a social gathering and demanded Roxia prepare an extravagant dress. Listen to me. Let the person I planted in the palace reveal your secret. Meanwhile, the Empress had just invited Lebet to a banquet. She didn't ask about Rasta, just using this to intimidate the mistress. Making Rasta anxious was Ravia's goal. In fact, when Rasta met Lebet, she asked if she had complained to the Empress. But the Empress hadn't asked any questions. The two ended up fighting over a misunderstanding. Ravia didn't care about this, but became suspicious of Rasta's background. As former owners, the Rodescia family should be the people Rasta least wants to see. Yet now they've become so close. It seems besides her slave status, Rasta must have an even bigger secret being held over her. What's the first step to stealing the Empress's position? It's spreading unfavorable rumors. Ravia was still pondering hard about the Empire's magicians losing their abilities. In the long run, this would affect the Empire's long-term stability and the security of imperial power. But the Emperor asked if she could smile. With the mistress pregnant and her influence growing, any smile would be fake. The Emperor was helpless. Even offering an exquisite and precious ring couldn't make the Empress smile genuinely. After all, nothing had happened to make her happy. Asking for a smile was really too much. Soon after, the Empress widely invited the Empire's beauties to attend an afternoon tea party. Obviously, Rasta wasn't on the invitation list. This was the Empress's silent warning to her. Eleg came out to stir things up again. Just announced to everyone, the Empress invited all the nobles except you. The commoner-born mistress can only be lonely by herself. All this is the Empress's doing. This is all to gain sympathy from the common people. Soon after, Ravia successfully held the afternoon tea party. Ravia's liking for him had reached its peak. Who doesn't secretly keep a portrait of the previous Empress? Then, Rasta and Eleg appeared at an inappropriate time. Ravia said Lebet was so cute, she really wanted to make her her sister. Rasta was upset. Her desire to be the Empress's sister was rejected, but the person she hated most could become the Empress's sister. Kashang, wandering among the people, accidentally heard that the Empress was isolating the commoner-born mistress. After hearing the rumors, everyone urged the Empress to teach Rasta a lesson, because time would let her become the bad woman. But Ravia refused. Whether it's the Empress or the mistress, whoever becomes the bad woman would affect the Emperor's fertility. Unstable public opinion would affect the country's peace. What should be noted is Eleg. He's likely the one manipulating public opinion behind the scenes. In the Western Kingdom, Heinley finally ascended to the throne. At the banquet, rumors about Heinley's deep feelings for Rasta, and thus disliking Ravia for tormenting Rasta, were accepted because he wanted to use Rasta as a shield for the Empress, diverting the citizens' attention. Have you ever thought that the Empress won't accept you? Heinley didn't care about this at all. Then do you think if I dance while courting her, will the Empress accept me? Michaela was speechless. You really are a bird without principles. But he still helped send the wedding ring to Ravia. Ravia put on this ring. She didn't expect it would fit so well. Proposal. It must be a joke. There are so many women in the world. You'll surely find a princess you like. Turning around, Michaela laughed nervously. Are you sure about using these shoes? He'll be heartbroken. All right. Change the time preparing for a social gathering ball. Michaela sighed. Now I can go back and report. On the other side, Rasta, who really didn't want to prepare a dress for Lebet, came up with a nasty idea. She made Lebet wear the same dress as herself. Just as everything was heading towards chaos, Ravia suddenly put a shawl on Lebet. Averting a storm, Rosa once had a child. You can imagine how green the Emperor's face must have been. Meanwhile, Savia learned that Rosa had recently gathered teachers to study courses, and everything was done to the Empress's standards. She was quite displeased. It seems she's determined to imitate me. Fortunately, there was new information about the Rhodesia family. There's a secret space in their house. There's a child inside. Interesting. It seems this child is Rasta's secret. Meanwhile, Viscount Rhodesia came to confront Rasta because his daughter was insulted. But unexpectedly, Rasta didn't care at all. She maintained a graceful and gentle demeanor. But when it came to the child issue, she immediately couldn't hide her resentful expression. But so what? If she can accept being a slave, she might also accept her past. I am this child's mother. But you're different. You'd better not threaten me. She shows one face to others, but acts like a good baby seeking love in front of the emperor. Someone is investigating you and Viscount Rhodesia. If the Viscount threatens you, you must tell me. I definitely won't let him off. Hearing the emperor's declaration, Rosa still chose to lie. A man's words can't be trusted. In the emperor's eyes, the filter for Rosa might be 10 kilograms heavy. Not telling me the truth is being considerate, afraid of affecting me. But unexpectedly, Kexular and Countess Elizabeth were both there. It's Viscount Rhodesia's movements. The emperor was delighted to hear this. It seems the empress still cares about Rasta. Obviously, he had a deep misunderstanding. He actually thought Navia was jealous of Rasta. But for the stability of the royal family, don't let your brother probe around for information. If some secret is accidentally exposed, the entire royal family will become the laughingstock of our empire. Finally, he asked Navia if she could go with him to investigate the loss of magician's abilities. She also refused, citing busy government affairs. Rosa didn't ask the emperor to take her along, and didn't get her wish either. Under the emperor's pressure, she thought she should stop her brother from investigating Rhodesia. I wish Xiong could be that well-behaved, but obviously he won't listen. Their worries were necessary. He faced an attack, but how could these small fries be his match? He beat them to a pulp in no time. Even the mastermind behind it confessed, Viscount Rhodesia. Damn bastard. How dare he target me? Without much effort, Viscount Rhodesia was kidnapped by Kexular. Facing this terrifying man, Rhodesia quickly admitted that Rasta had a child. As for the child's father, he said he didn't know. He raised the child himself. Kexular laughed. Are you really that kind-hearted? That's not important. Where's the evidence of Rasta being a slave? Kexular held a knife to him. Rhodesia quickly said he had a slave trading certificate. It described Rasta's appearance in detail. Unexpectedly, these words were also heard by the emperor's men behind the door. Good news! Good news. The emperor is finally going to divorce the empress. After learning the mistress's secret, the emperor's men rushed overnight to Greenland where the emperor was visiting. Yes, the emperor was troubled by the decrease in magicians. After all, the Eastern Empire's prosperity came from magicians. Many secrets about Rasta were delivered to the emperor's hands. The emperor never imagined that the innocent flower not only had a boyfriend before, but also a child. It was truly inconceivable. First, rescue Viscount Rhodesia, then place Kexular under house arrest. At this point, that's all that could be done. This made him so melancholic that Rasta's ex arranged a secret meeting. The ex wanted to give Rasta their son's hair as a keepsake. Although Rasta appeared indifferent in person, she still secretly picked up the hair. Meanwhile, news of her brother's capture and Rasta having a child reached Rabia's ears. So the child in Rhodesia's secret space was actually Rasta's child. If the Empress tells the Emperor this news now, your efforts won't be in vain. But what they didn't know was that the Emperor not only knew the whole truth, but also saw the child's hair Rosa sealed in the room. He could pretend to believe Rasta's lies. I just trimmed my hair ends, she said, hiding the hair away. The Emperor knew the truth, but still gently stroked Rasta's hair. As soon as the Emperor left, she immediately changed her demeanor. This hair was nothing but trouble. As for the Emperor, his final decision regarding all this was to divorce the Empress. The secretary was stunned. The mistress had a child, yet you want to divorce the innocent Empress. The Emperor had his own justification. If Kexia is punished and the Empress steps down, the public will surely sympathize with the Empress. At this time, putting Rasta in the Empress position for a while, his own child can become the legitimate prince or princess. Later, when the public thinks Rasta is unfit for the position, the Empress can return to her original place. By then, the Empress will regain her position. It's simply perfect. The secretary could hardly bear to listen. What if the Empress becomes pregnant with a child in the future? The Emperor firmly stated that the Empress couldn't bear children. Now the most important thing is to find a fallen noble family and claim they are Rasta's parents. If Rasta becomes greedy for the position and refuses to give it up, then reveal her plot against Duchess Anya. It turns out His Majesty had planned everything. Everyone was just his chess piece. The Emperor was also determined to exile Kexular. Navia couldn't stop the Emperor's decision and could only look for another opportunity. Rasta, whose hair was discovered, was also very uneasy. Could His Majesty already know her secret? Before Rasta could think of a solution, the Emperor dropped a bombshell with one sentence. You'll be Empress for a year. If she becomes Empress for a year, her child will be a legitimate prince or princess. If she seizes the opportunity, it won't just be a year as Empress, but a chance to completely remove Ravia. The most terrifying thing was that Ravia accidentally overheard their confusing conversation. Sobianxio actually wants to give her position to Ro. Sta. The Emperor wants to divorce the Empress. The next second, she agreed to the King of Ning's proposal. If she wants to regret it, there's no chance. Although initially, Ravia was shocked and hurt to learn the Emperor wanted to divorce her. Circumstances forced her to consider her future path sooner. Before that, she must visit the Magic Academy in Vivre. The Emperor also dealt with several matters. He summoned Radeshu to inquire about Rasta's slave contract, but gained nothing. Meanwhile, Ravia arrived in Vivre City, coming to the hotel where she once stayed with Heinle. But as if by miracle, there was a familiar figure here. Unexpectedly, it was really Prince Heinle. Life changes unpredictably. Who would have thought to meet an old friend in the old place? But this was no coincidence. Heinle had heard news that Ravia would come here and rushed over, feeling extremely fortunate. He missed the days when he was still a prince. As a result, Ravia thought he was unable to bear the responsibilities of being a king. No, Empress. My current problem is that the ministers are urging me to take a queen. I sincerely hope you could be my queen. Ravia thought Heinle was just joking. She joked, what if I really let you marry me as your queen? Heinle's face lit up with a smile. If you're willing, I'll marry you right away. That was enough. Ravia felt it was just Hyene's consolation. But the most important purpose of this trip was to face Ambermi, who had lost her magic power. Navia, who had previously comforted this child, felt she was in the same situation as this child. One was stripped of her qualification as a magician, the other was about to be stripped of her qualification as Empress. Heinle was surprised by her empathy. The Empress's throne couldn't be taken away by others. Unexpectedly, this statement hit Navia's sore spot. Heinle wanted to comfort the Empress, whose expression had drastically changed. He suddenly declared, if you really want me to be your queen, then I'll be your queen. A moment of joy rushed through Heinle's mind, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Looking at Heinle, who resembled a nodding golden retriever, Navia found him incredibly cute. She no longer thought about the Emperor. After all, if you're not kind, don't blame me for being disloyal. Before Heinle could ask why Navia suddenly changed her mind, knights from the Eastern Empire suddenly appeared. It was time to leave. Navia made an agreement with him to communicate through letters. After parting, Heinle was grinning like an idiot. The goddess was finally going to marry him. Even if he only wanted her as a backup plan, she would still offer him another side. Ravia was contemplating how to establish herself if she married into the Western Kingdom. She never expected the palace to become so complicated. Even if Heinle fell in love with someone else one day, it wouldn't be as painful as knowing Sobianxio loved someone else. It turns out I love Sobianxio more than I imagined. However, the Emperor was so cruel. While the Empress was away, he exiled Kexular. He even took the opportunity to search the Empress's chambers, taking away all the letters between Ravia and Heinle. How severe can a man's double standards be? It's fine for me to have a child with a mistress, but you're guilty for corresponding with another man. The Emperor never expected that what he thought his mistress had taken, Rasta's slave contract, was actually given to the Empress. Yet there was such an unexpected surprise. The Emperor was furious. He grabbed the letters and set them on fire. It's all because of you and Heinle that Rosa is called a liar by others. But Ravia had already explained that the person corresponding wasn't Rasta. The Emperor was obstinate, believing it was all Ravia's fault. He ordered the Empress not to correspond with Heinle anymore. All this made Ravia realize that this man would never allow her to stay by his side. Ravia decided to have her maid prepare red cloth. Red represents danger in the Western Kingdom. If the Western Kingdom's people saw it, they could avoid accidents. Because there were archers near the Empress's chambers, ready to shoot down down any birds flying to her room. Meanwhile, Heinle shared his joy with Michaela. Unbelievably, Nevia had agreed to marry him. Upon learning that Heinle was preparing to marry Nevia and insisting she shouldn't be relegated to the position of queen consort, Michaela was moved to tears. Heinle had finally decided to become emperor. He even gladly accepted traveling thousands of miles to the Eastern Empire to deliver a letter. At the same time, he was pleased to learn about Kexiala's exile. He even wanted the knight to bring Kexiala to the Western Kingdom. Michaela, eager to deliver the letter, imagined Heinle becoming emperor. Seeing the red cloth in the Empress's room, he thought Ravia was cute. In the Eastern Empire, red represents joyous occasions. Clearly, he was too clever and misunderstood Ravia's intention. Ravia heard a familiar sound and saw the familiar blue feathers. Just as she was extremely worried, a plate of fresh pigeon meat appeared in the room. Ravia fainted from shock, but actually the bluebird was fine. Bemin had given it to Eleg. He disinfected the bird with alcohol, causing its feathers to puff up. Who could withstand that? When Nevia, who had fainted from shock, woke up, she saw the emperor's fake concerned expression. Thinking of the happy times she once spent with that blue bird, which had now become a dish, Ravia couldn't accept it. How dare he show up here? Actually, it wasn't the bird that flew to Ravia's chambers. But what difference did it make? Weren't those blue feathers from the bird you shot down? After the emperor left, Ravia truly cried. Now, the most important thing was to have Eleg relay her message. However, she was surprised to find Michaela in Eleg's room. Michaela accused and explained that he was running errands for Lord Haino and accidentally got injured. Yavia, unaware of the truth, only informed Eleg that the blue bird had died. She found that one would be immediately killed upon discovery. After saying this, she turned and left. As soon as Yavia left, the two started arguing. Michaela was distressed about not being able to update successfully. This was the Lord's true feelings. Eleg indicated he understood. It seems you've seen how shameless the Emperor's thunder is. He created his own troubles, making the Empress suffer, and using it to propose divorce. It's utterly shameless. Meanwhile, Rasta, who had read the letters, had to reach out to Michaela through the letters. Thinking of Heinle and Eleg, could they be good friends? On the other side, Ravia learned that Rasta had once brought an injured bird to Eleg. You think Heinle's bird was injured. Michaela was also injured, and even his foot was at Eleg's place. Ravia couldn't help but suspect that Michaela was one of the bird-headed people. If that's the case, could the Empress also be under Heinle's command? Thinking about so many things, unable to handle official business, Ravia returned to her chambers only to find it in an uproar. It turned out the Emperor had sent a beautiful little bird as an apology. But no matter how beautiful the bird was, it still reminded her of the roasted bird from last time. Take it away, Ravia refused without hesitation. Kexiel, who made people worry for love, was now exiled to the border of the Northern Kingdom. At this time, a simple-minded man appeared, saying, "I'm Heinle from the Western Kingdom, sent by the world to pick you up." After showing the Western Kingdom's proof, Kexiel finally agreed to let this big brute guide her. In the Western Kingdom, Rosa watched as the Emperor wanted to divorce the Empress, but now sent gifts, unable to figure out what he was thinking. Taking back the little bird rejected by the Empress, she cruelly plucked its feathers, leaving it a mess. When the Emperor came to find her, she was crying inconsolably. "I picked up the bird the Empress didn't want. Seeing it like this breaks my heart." She thought she could successfully separate the Emperor and Empress, but unexpectedly, the Emperor wasn't angry and said he would raise the bird. The Emperor was also troubled. He searched the Empress's chambers and Rosa's house, but couldn't find Rosa's slave contract. It seems he could only use the former Emperor's method of creating a fake identity for the ex-husband. On the other side, troubled by the slave contract, Ravia found Eleg and asked if Michaela was one of the bird-headed people. This made Eleg laugh out loud. Of course, he couldn't tell Ravia the truth, but her insight was impressive. A few days later at the state council meeting, he began his performance. Sure enough, the Emperor's confidant immediately stated that two people claimed to be Rosa's parents. It was the same interpretation as before. Then people from the Karen family. Unexpectedly, another group claiming to be Rosa's parents appeared, slapping the Emperor's face. This amused Ravia, the spectator. It seemed Rosa had more than one set of parents. The embarrassed emperor had no choice but to have both groups locked up. As for why there were two groups, it was because Eleg had arranged one set of parents, and the emperor wasn't to be outdone. Rosa was extremely touched when she heard the emperor had arranged parents for her. However, the most important thing now was to quickly choose the more credible parents, which were the ones Eleg had arranged. Clearly, the emperor thought the same. He found the fake parents he had arranged and threatened that the person who brought them here was Kexiel. This way, he would have reason to accuse the Empress of hiring fake parents to kill the royal heir, a crime of deception, and that the Empress suffered from infertility. He submitted a divorce application. Even as a king of a country, he still had to please his brother-in-law for the sake of his loved one. The emperor decided to submit his divorce application to the high priest. Under the emperor's arrangement, he recognized the parents brought by Eleg. People discussed it heatedly. It was like a fairy tale, and the media wrote numerous reports. Viscount Roduxiu rushed to the scene as soon as he got the news. He couldn't lose his cash cow. If Rosa had parents, wouldn't the leverage of her being a slave be lost? But Rosewies's gaze was too obvious. Roduxiu felt helpless and could only reverse his approach. But he would definitely not let him off. He couldn't let his arrogance surpass his own. Meanwhile, Kexiel was brought before Prince Hain Lu by a knight from the Western Kingdom. Hain Lu smiled brightly, saying, "You must have had a tough journey." As Kexiel was seriously recalling that this guy was the man infatuated with Rasta, she then heard Hain Lu sweetly call out brother-in-law, causing her to instantly fall apart. To win over Ravia's family, Hain Lu would stop at nothing. He even made the brother-in-law's hair stand on end. After composing himself, Hain Lu finally heard the explanation for why he called him brother-in-law. "I've made a marriage promise with Empress Rabia," he said. Kexiel nearly choked on her drink upon hearing this. He quickly took out his treasured handkerchief of Rabia's, intending to wipe the brother-in-law's face. "Hey, isn't this the handkerchief father personally embroidered for Rabia? How did you get it?" "I see. The elder gave it to me." "What the hell? How could this guy be so thick-skinned? Nothing's even happened yet, and he's already calling them brother-in-law and father-in-law." Well, under Kexiel's speechless gaze, Hain Lu shyly admitted that Rabia gave it to him. "She tied it around my neck. Of course, I mean the bird's neck." But clearly, Kexiel misunderstood, thinking Rabia had tied the handkerchief around Hain's human neck. The subsequent conversation became extremely ambiguous, making Kexiel blush upon realizing it. After some discussion, Hain Lu explained that Rabia was going to propose an alliance marriage to him. It might be related to Emperor Anchio's plan to divorce the Empress. "What? I knew it was that scoundrel. My sister wouldn't propose an alliance marriage for no reason. It must be because she secretly learned that the emperor wants a divorce. Then why did you agree to this marriage? What could be the reason?" "Of course, it's because of love. I love Empress Rabia. It must be said that people in love are truly terrifying. They could do anything." Hain Lu complained with a pitiful face that he and Rabia used pigeons to communicate. But Sobiesha found out, and now their communication is restricted. The Empress is everything to Rabia's people. After careful consideration, Kexiel decided that Hain Lu was the best candidate for an alliance marriage with her sister. So, she expressed that she could help him communicate with Rabia. Soon, Rabia was able to contact Hain Lu through her brother's best friend, Palian. Learning that her brother was in the Western Kingdom, Rabia wrote about her latest situation. As she pondered how to live in the Western Kingdom in the future, she learned that the fake parents only recognized Rosa, accusing them of deception. Once childhood sweethearts and a match made in heaven, now they were falling apart and going separate ways. It's truly lamentable. Meanwhile, Rosa was crying because she had to learn the Empress's official duties. Then the Emperor learned that the Empress had gone to the prison holding the fake parents. "You say my brother instructed you. Then what does my brother look like?" Unexpectedly, under Ravia's probing, the two said he had blue eyes and black hair. "But they've never even seen my brother's face." "Your Majesty, what do you think?" "Of course, it's because you, Empress, threatened them, so they gave the wrong answer." Unexpectedly, under Ravia's further guidance, the girl said Kexiel had red eyes and red hair. Things were getting more and more ridiculous. Still stubborn, he insisted it was because Rabia was twisting the truth that they spoke incorrectly. It seems he had already made up his mind. Rabia no longer wanted to argue pointlessly with the emperor. The emperor's people had already sent the divorce application. Soon, the judge came to the palace to talk with them. Once she declares acceptance of the divorce in court, victory will ultimately belong to the emperor. Rabia quickly wrote a letter and entrusted it to Chishur. After many twists and turns, the letter finally reached Palion's hands. There has never been a remarried empress in history. Clever Anxio will definitely hinder her remarriage. To ensure Rosa can handle official duties smoothly when she takes the position, I need to work overtime to handle official matters. That was her self-funded welfare project. She also changed the person in charge to herself. The Empress was a dedicated and loving empress, but the Chief Justice still appeared on time. The Chief Justice once believed that this Emperor and Empress would be a match made in heaven, but things didn't go as planned. The Emperor pinned Kexiel's crimes on Ravia. He also stated that both Ravia and himself had eaten cookies prepared by the late Empress for her lover. Those cookies had an infertility effect, which is why they haven't had children all this time. It wasn't until Qin Feng became pregnant with his child that they confirmed the Empress had a problem. Of course, this royal scandal couldn't be known to outsiders. The Chief Justice also came to Ravia. Although he was furious, he still endured Sobi Aishio's so-called reasons for divorce, expressing hope that Ravia wouldn't be submissive during the divorce. Meanwhile, Viscount Rodexiu was still thinking about how to regain control over Rasta. Then he saw a child who looked exactly like Rasta. With this child in hand, Rosa wouldn't be able to escape his grasp. Speaking of which, the Emperor wanting to divorce the Empress. It's hard to say if it's a blessing or a curse. As soon as Lopet heard this news, he rushed to the palace, shouting, "I will definitely find Rasta to avenge the Empress. Don't let hatred blind your eyes. Don't be bound by the past. Put your own happiness first." This was also Ravia's kindness. She wanted all who loved her to live happily, not filled with hatred. At this moment, unexpectedly, the loyal Empress suddenly appeared at the window. "Empress, you can't die." He didn't want the person he cherished to disappear. Finally, this day has come. The Empress remarried. Ravia was now disinfecting the injured, but not seriously hurt Empress. However, Heinlo was very satisfied. It wasn't in vain that he rushed here day and night. Ravia saw that the Empress was still alive and showered her with kisses. The Emperor learned that a golden bird had flown into the Empress's chambers. In summer, he no longer needed to shoot down birds flying to the Empress's room. It must be said, Beiming Ishu already knew that Hein Lu was in Ele's room. How could it be so fast? It had only been a few hours since the message was sent. But looking at the curled-up Empress beside him, he felt her purple eyes were incredibly similar to Hyen's. The more he looked, the more he liked it, and he couldn't help but kiss her again. Sure enough, at the National Council meeting not long after, the Emperor announced his intention to divorce the Empress. Even though the nobles tried to dissuade him, it was of no use. The divorce was inevitable. Ravia had to go discuss it with Hein Lu. Hein Lu opened his arms, shyly hoping to comfort Ravia. Ravia didn't refuse. He always gave her a sense of complete security. Hein Li's gentleness was even more evident in that he asked for Ravia's consent even for hugs and touches. "I won't let the Empress bear this alone for too long," Hein Lu promised. As long as the Empress agreed to the divorce and proposed remarriage, he would definitely seize the opportunity to appear. As for how he could reach the Eastern Empire within hours, Hein Lu said he would explain everything after they got married. And the first thing Ravia wanted to do after getting married was to look at the account books. Truly a diligent Empress. On the other side, Palion in the Western Kingdom was anxious to death. He didn't know Hein had turned into a bird and flown to the Eastern Empire. He still thought Hein hadn't seen the Empress's letter. What if the Empress had an emergency? At this stage, the Emperor actually came to visit Ravia. Shamelessly, he said, "We won't be apart for long." "Are you joking? After the divorce, I also hope to always be by your side." "God, listen to what nonsense you're saying." Ravia couldn't agree with the Emperor's idea of a temporary divorce. Finally, the day of the final battle arrived. The judge asked Ravia if she agreed to the divorce. "I agree to the divorce," Ravia said very calmly. The Marquis instantly collapsed. "Your Highness, you can't do this." The mistress was triumphant, and the Emperor finally got his wish. "I'm divorcing the Empress. I request to remarry." The Empress now showed her domineering side. With an imposing aura, "Can I come out now?" Hein also refreshed people's vision. Hein came to Ravia's side, gently expressing that he wanted to take Ravia as his queen consort. The Emperor's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. How dare Hein steal his woman? What else could Hein be doing in someone else's country? Proposing, of course. The Chief Justice watched the chaotic scene, looking at Ravia, who had grown up under his nose. "I agree to Ravia's remarriage. I request approval for her to marry King Hein Lu." Great news. Hein Lu and Ravia finally got married. Hein Lu and Ravia come before me. From this moment, I pronounce you husband and wife. After the ceremony, the sociable Hein Lu invited the Chief Justice to attend their wedding. I'm too busy. You must hold a grand wedding. Don't mind what others say. But clearly, the emperor was dissatisfied with this result. Don't tell me you agreed, just because he proposed. Hein immediately came out to protect his wife fiercely. The ex-husband has no right to question this matter. Even as an ex-husband, I'm still the emperor of this country. I don't agree to my ex-wife remarrying. So rest assured, Emperor, this is my right. The Chief Justice expressed his disagreement. It seemed that nothing was going smoothly. The emperor left in a rage. But what was this all about? Ravia's parents hadn't yet come to their senses. They suddenly had a new son-in-law with a grinning face. Several maids expressed that it was well done and that they would support Ravia going to the Western Kingdom. To this, Hein Lu promised that their treatment in the Western Kingdom would only be better. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, but they've already moved to the Western Kingdom. Now, everything was joyful. Ravia could finally relax. Because he and the emperor were not at all relaxed. Rosa, to add fuel to the fire, quickly went forward to tell the emperor. Actually, the one who shares the same surname with Prince Hein Lu is the Empress. They've been secretly in contact for a long time. Rosa admitted it deliberately to protect the Empress. Such remarks that confuse right and wrong are truly astonishing. The public also had many discussions about the Empress's remarriage. Some applauded, some were bitter. But anyway, packing up and heading to the Western Kingdom was the top priority. Regrettably, her parents refused to go to the Western Kingdom on the grounds that they were citizens of the Eastern Empire. But it's okay. With Hein Lu by her side, everything would be fine. However, unexpectedly, knights had already surrounded Ravia's mansion. The emperor still felt that Hein Lu had stolen his wife. A ridiculous situation. You've already divorced Ravia. You're no longer husband and wife. Hein Lu, you seduced the innocent Ravia. The emperor roared at the gate, losing all composure. I was the one who proposed to marry him first. Unexpectedly, Ravia came out to slap him in the face. The emperor wouldn't believe it, thinking this was all Ravia's revenge on him. That's why she did this. He's just using you. He's not a good person. Ravia didn't care about this at all. It's just mutual use. Ravia, you should know I wanted to spend my life with you. Then wasn't it you who filed for divorce? The emperor was speechless. He was defeated. But no matter what, he couldn't let Ravia go to the Western Kingdom. As for Hein, he didn't comment on the talk of mutual use. He only said that he didn't see her as a political marriage partner. But 5 days later, the situation was still tense. They couldn't keep illegally detaining a foreign king in the Eastern Empire. What to do? The emperor summoned Aelge to take Hein Lu away. The empress and Hein Lu went to the Western Kingdom. A happy life was just ahead. Speaking of which, for the emperor to save face, he pretended to rescue his good friend Hein Lu. As for Ravia, don't even think about it. He ordered his secretary to find laws to prevent the empress from remarrying. Aelge originally planned to take only Hein Lu away, but Ravia pulled him aside for a private conversation. It turned out that she hoped Aelge could guide Rasta on empress affairs in the future. Even at this time, she could still consider the citizens of the Eastern Empire. Aelge was somewhat impressed. He had no choice but to change his mind and take Ravia away under the noses of the royal knights. On the other side, the emperor's secretaries found that in the past, there were only precedents for canceling divorces. But if the divorce was canceled, all previous efforts would be in vain. He hadn't yet become the official heir. Then they learned that Ravia had disappeared. The empress has escaped. Go after her immediately. The emperor immediately gave the order. How did Ravia disappear from the duke's mansion? First, under her parents' cover, Ravia hid in a secret compartment of the carriage and left with Hein Lu and Aelge. When they reached a border village, Hein Lu arranged for Ravia to join a merchant group. He would depart alone. Splitting up would help divert attention. Unexpectedly, this rough coachman thought Ravia did a great job. What's worth staying for with that dog emperor? Soon, at a place far from the Eastern Empire, Ravia got off the carriage. Hein Lu appeared on horseback at this time. I must say, he was really fast. Hein Lu just asked if Ravia could ride a horse. Then it happened. A scene of Ravia galloping with Hein Lu. The speed was too fast afterwards. Hein Lu was like a little wife. Unexpectedly, Ravia really enjoyed it. It had been a long time since she felt so free. That hearty smile made Hein Lu's heart skip a beat. The goddess was so cool. But Ravia didn't need to think to know that Hein Lu was secretly laughing behind her back. Even if he sat in front and found out, he would still laugh nonstop. The two of them traveled sweetly like this all the way to the border of the Western Kingdom. Mighty An La was confused. Didn't he prepare 2 horses? Of course, the thick-skinned hyena insisted there was only one horse. But embarrassingly, the nearby people didn't show much welcome. The Western Kingdom's guards looked surprised. Even the various nobles of the kingdom looked curious. Fortunately, ayant le cap de conforting Ravia. The Empress is loved by all. Everyone will be charmed by you. At this time, several captains appeared. Seeing Heinlo, they complained. Just for a woman, he risked his life. But obviously, Hein wouldn't allow anyone to be disrespectful towards Ravia. I am your lord. Ravia is also your lord. You must observe proper etiquette. Although Captain Uran of the Imperial Guard immediately apologized. He then said that since the wedding ceremony hadn't been held, Ravia couldn't stay in the princess consort's room. Just got rid of a green tea bitch. Now comes a white lotus. Ravia was also very troubled, facing Captain Uran's repeated nitpicking. He even wanted Ravia to stay in the guest room. Ravia politely declined. She also suppressed the idea of wanting to stand up for herself, stating that as the future princess consort, she couldn't possibly stay in the guest room. Just then, the former princess consort Krista appeared. At this moment, in the princess consort's palace, Ravia took the opportunity to accept this suggestion. Heinla had no choice but to let Ravia go with Krista. Unexpectedly, this Krista started probing right away. Ravia enthusiastically called Krista princess consort and complained that the new princess consort certainly wouldn't care about the servants at all. Wanting to test Ravia's attitude, but not daring to mention Ravia's identity, she pretended to be understanding and said they don't mean it. It's just that they've been together for a long time and have feelings for each other. Ravia just nodded simply. Returning to the princess consort's chambers, they expressed, don't let Ravia take away the princess consort's rights. Not just rights, that woman also took away Hein Le. This is what makes people most resentful. The kingdom's Hein Le gave a lecture to those who were displeased with Ravia. Ravia becoming the princess consort is a fact. You must respect the princess consort. The same situation also troubled Ravia. Even though Heinla stood by Ravia's bedside holding a jeweled rose, some things I must do myself. But some things you can help me with now. Let Captain Uran's sister be my maid. The most important thing now is to arrange the wedding. If we let the former princess consort do this, it will only further solidify her position. There's no choice but to do it myself. The wedding day will be when Hein ascends to the throne. This way, the glory of ascending the throne can overshadow Ravia's negative news. On the other side, when Uran's sister Ruth heard that the Western princess consort wanted her to be a maid, she said she wanted to meet her. I won't be won over so quickly. But Ravia just asked her to do what a maid should do, without any intention of currying favor. When it was over, Uran asked Ruth if the Western princess consort had tried to win her over. No, but it seems not bad to serve her all the time. This left him a bit confused. Didn't you say you weren't planning to like her? All this was thanks to Ruth. While she was giving Ravia a tour of the palace, a reporter appeared. The reporter started with a bombshell question. Why did you decide to remarry so quickly? Ravia calmly answered the reporter. When I was about to get divorced, His Majesty gave me a lot of support. What? You knew you were going to get divorced early on? I overheard it by accident. This perfectly measured response made Ruth feel sympathetic. Back in the room, shortly after, Heinle came in holding a stone box, laughing uncontrollably. Appeared at the window. As he walked into the room, Heinle began to confess. Marrying you as my princess consort is my wish. His fingers kept tapping on the table. Was he hinting at something? Chincho didn't expect to be caught as soon as she reached out. The handsome and dashing King Heinle, in front of the princess consort, was actually a whimpering and coquettish creature. No wonder they say he's so cute. Empress, there's something I want to do with you, Heinle said shyly. Could it be a kiss? But now they're husband and wife. They could try. Heinle was so happy he was beaming. Then he fed Ravia a bite of food. His wish was surprisingly innocent. The person was unexpectedly pure as well. It made Ravia feel embarrassed. Hein, seeing her expression change, thought he had forced her to do something she didn't like. He looked like he was about to cry. All right, Ravia had to compromise. She couldn't let him know her thoughts weren't pure. After feeding her, Ravia asked, is Michaela that bluebird? Why mention him in such a good atmosphere? But Heinlo honestly admitted it. But is he a birdhead? Hearing this, Heinlo almost split his sides laughing. Birdhead is an insulting term. The tribe doesn't like it at all. Since the conversation had come this far, Ravia couldn't help but ask, is the Empress of the same opinion? Heinle didn't dare answer directly. He just asked if the Empress were human, would you be angry? Although the Empress was very cute and would comfort him, He had done many disrespectful things to her. If she were human, he would feel very embarrassed. So he had a bit of an answer for Hien. The goddess was very angry about the Empress being human. Hien's whole bird self felt bad. Knowing Michaela was a bird, he wouldn't be angry. I don't serve Michaela, he said proudly. I'm an independent bird in the world. I don't care if others are angry or not. Let's wait until the Empress's maid from the Eastern Empire arrives to tell her the truth. Speaking of which, that child from the Magic Academy, give him back his magic power. That child has always been that. Ravia sponsored, but Bacala said everything was okay. Meanwhile, Ravia was still pondering why Hien Lu was so shocked when asked if the Empress was human. Lost in thought, she accidentally choked herself. Suddenly, she realized that Hien Lu and the Empress both had purple eyes and golden hair. Oh my god, could the Empress be Hai? Hien Lu himself had shared a bed with her before. They even weathered a typhoon together. Help, it's so embarrassing. Then Ruth interrupted her thoughts. Your Highness, is it because of Lady Krista that you're so resentful? Not really. Speaking of which, Hien Lu is good at sarcasm. Could it be because he's a bird? But brother has been in the Western Kingdom for so long. How come he's nowhere to be seen? The Sixth King also planned to go find his brother. But unexpectedly, he found the knight who brought his brother to the Western Kingdom. Elberlin persisted, hoping Navia would take his sister as a maid. Navia was very helpless. She let him come over first. So the next day, a scarred-faced, fierce-eyed Mastas appeared. One can't help but marvel at how powerful genes are. This thing, when hearing I would call her Miss Mastas, had stars in her eyes, because no one had ever called her Miss before. Hien Li's identity was revealed, but what Navia cared about most was actually his breathtaking figure. While Navia was still worrying about the new maid, Tilnos went to train her. Hien Lu was also frightened when he learned this news. Mastas and her brother were members of the Underground Knight Order. Their public identities were still confidential. You should know that Mastas is extremely violent, known as the Blood Hand. Her cruelty is well known. Now those fierce hands that killed enemies are to cut steak for the princess consort. Just imagine how incongruous that scene would be. As for why Mastas became the princess consort's maid, it was mainly because her brother wanted to marry his sister to the Empress's brother, Kashia. Arranging her as a maid beside the princess consort gives more opportunities to be seen. This plan is quite clever. On the other side, under Ross's guidance, Mastas was actually doing quite well, but she kept wanting to swear on her weapon, guaranteeing with her life. Ravia wanted to save her from being her maid, and even spoke carelessly. A maid who casually wields weapons and pays no attention to herself. Unexpectedly, Mastas smiled brightly, saying it's great that she doesn't have to cut off her fingers for making mistakes all the time. It made Ravia's heart soften. She was considering this matter while taking an evening walk. Then she walked to a place with a large flock of birds. Wondering if the Empress might be among them, she ventured deeper into the area. Unexpectedly, she saw the Empress in the pool. The next second, the Empress in the pool suddenly transformed into an 8-pack abs. It was Hien Lu with a body like David's statue. That magnificent physique was truly breathtaking. If that's the case, then the Empress I was hugging before was actually naked. Hien Li's impressive physique. Is it really something a human can possess? After peeking at that thing the night Mylan was released, her mind was filled with that perfect figure. It must be said that it's quite misleading every time. On the Eastern Empire Emperor's side, he had already received news of Ravia becoming the Western Kingdom's princess consort. He immediately notified them to quickly hold the wedding with Rasta, making it even more grand and magnificent. Ravia would surely regret it. He also took the opportunity to appoint Rasta's fake father as one of the 5 ministers, solving the issue of the Empress's family background. Eleg also strategized for Rasta's path to becoming Empress, even standing up for her. Rasta suspected if he had fallen for her. But since Rasta was so cute and charming, it was normal for the princess to like her. On the other side, Ravia kept thinking about Hien Li's naked body no matter what she was doing. It was incredibly embarrassing. In the afternoon, when going to meet Hien Lu, she ran into the former princess consort Krista at the door. Krista wanted to be responsible for the wedding work. Hien Lu didn't intend to let his sister-in-law take charge, so he politely declined. Ravia strongly agreed. Well, I thought I would be suitable for this task. It's my fault for not grasping the atmosphere. I have to say, this high-level green tea rhetoric made it seem like no one was bullying her. Heinle showed extreme loyalty, urging his sister-in-law not to enter his office as much as possible. The teary-eyed puppy actually had 8-pack abs. It must be said that Ravia is truly blessed. Ravia expressed her desire to contribute to the wedding ceremony, but Heinle thought there were few occasions when his wife needed to exert herself. After all, to give Ravia an unforgettable wedding, Heinle decided to handle it personally. Just provide the measurements for the wedding dress. Come over, I'll take your measurements. Oh no, it was fine until he said that. Once he mentioned it, Ravia couldn't help but think of Lee's shocking size that night. When did she become so dirty-minded? So Ravia decisively chose to look away. Empress, are you angry? Our Heinle was frightened. Empress, why won't you look at me? Those sparkling big eyes, exactly like the Empress's. This guy, you seem to know you're cute. Ravia's inner thoughts were screaming so cute, but she just wouldn't look at Heinle. Heinle could only cry. Heinle, are you going to confess to Ravia that you know he's actually the Empress? Seeing that beauty's face, she accidentally blurted out, let's invite Duke Kaufman. Unexpectedly, Ravia was now completely under the Cat King's control. To cover up her slip of the tongue, Ravia had to continue. I can help the Western Kingdom complete trade relations with Kinbert. Obviously, Heinle's mind wasn't on this. I don't know why my wife is crying, but I'll obediently listen to her. Previously, due to disagreements with the Emperor in the Eastern Empire, trade relations were about to be terminated. Preparing to break off, Heinle also vaguely remembered that Sobiechu once got a big bump on his head, and then the old brother got angry. So he gave up trade relations with Kinbert. The more miserable his wife's ex-husband is, the happier he'll be. After talking for a while, Heinle suggested sitting down to talk. Unexpectedly, when Ravia saw Heinle's muscular body, her little heart started racing again. So she decided to continue avoiding Heinle's gaze. She kept talking about trade relations, but our Heinle wasn't happy at all. What's wrong? Does my wife despise me? Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Empress, do you have to look over there while talking to me? Look at me when you speak. Why are you avoiding my eyes? Heinle's grievance was about to overflow the screen, but that crow still couldn't overcome the hurdle in her heart. I'm not avoiding your eyes. I'm just trying to avoid my conscience. She couldn't possibly say she had improper thoughts about him. But Heinle was still stuck at the kindergarten stage of why won't my wife look at me? Our Ravia was already about to lose control. After a series of digressions, Heinle still didn't understand why Ravia was avoiding him. After they parted, even Ruth commented that the king and princess consort were so sweet. Former princess consort Krista, who is Heinle's sister-in-law, forcefully intercepted Ravia. I have something to tell you. I heard that Miss Ravia's people insulted me. The maid looked at the woman before her, who appeared virtuous and proper, coming to seek justice for the maid. She found it very puzzling. The person who insulted Simena's maid was Sir Alberny, who was the king's man. If you want to seek redress, go find His Majesty the King. This woman, with her seemingly high moral standing, thought she could confront a mere maid, but who knows what her true intentions were. In the Western Kingdom social circles, most people were on Krista's side. Now I need someone to consolidate my social position. It's essential. Ruth, help me send a message to Mastis. I hope she can be my maid. After all, she hasn't been influenced by Krista yet. Just like Ruth's brother Ghost is Heinle's man, so there's no need to worry about her being in the former princess consort's camp. And so, the carefree Mastis became Ravia's personal maid from then on. By the way, they also met the Western Kingdom's costume designer on the way. Maryland was preparing to design the wedding dress for the princess consort. When Ravia saw the design sketches, she was so excited that she was practically twirling in her skirt. His Highness ordered me to design the most luxurious dress possible. I was worried it might overshadow the princess consort, but now that I see Her Highness, she's the very definition of elegance and grace. Any exquisite gown would suit her perfectly. I must design the most dazzling dress for you. But on Rasta's side, the dress was requested to be more modest. This was barely tolerable. It's the baby's first wedding, yet she can't wear a magnificent dress. What's the point of a wedding ceremony then? The designer explained that it was all to gain the support of the common people. Who cares about that? If I end up wearing something ordinary and then compare myself to Empress Ravia, I'll look like a piece of crap. Rasta absolutely wouldn't allow this to happen. What did she end up wearing at that time? I want an even more dazzling and luxurious dress than before. I absolutely can't be outdone in the end. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Rasta's exclusive genius Eleg appeared. Brother brought a reporter. The main purpose was to create a good image for Rasta. Don't be nervous. I'll help you. Whether it's actually helpful or not remains to be seen. The advantage of having a brand new husband is that he'll act cute, be coquettish, and even cry. In daily life, he'll just cling to you, always gazing at you with passionate eyes. Anyway, Rasta doesn't have such luck. In front of the reporter who speaks for the common people, she claims to be one with them. The reporter, who married well, wrote as if divinely inspired. Finally, there's some big news. It's a win-win. What happened in front of the reporter only emphasized her love story with the emperor. As for the consequences of trying to please both sides, Rasta clearly didn't have the energy to think about it. The baby in her belly suddenly moved. Life is truly miraculous. Originally, His Majesty the Emperor would have been moved by this little life too, crying his eyes out. In the Western Kingdom, Ravia was taking measurements for the bride's dress. Heinle absolutely wouldn't miss a second. He clung to Ravia, ostensibly to inspect the situation, but actually just to see his wife. I'm too embarrassed to expose you, but I have to say, love is truly great. Look at Heinle, he's absolutely beaming. Full of vigor, he opened the clothing sketches, wanted to sneak a peek at Ravia trying on the sample dress. Unexpectedly, he was suddenly pushed to the ground by Ravia. Wait, what just happened in that instant? Why is baby on the ground? So the giant baby won. It seemed like nothing happened as he turned and fled the scene. Ravia was still thinking about how she accidentally embarrassed the king. Obviously, the baby won. With a clear mind, he only thought his wife was angry. Could it be that he knows I'm the Empress? What should I do? Trust in the method of not angering one's wife. Michele thoughtfully offered advice. Just go ahead and confess. It's better to face it head on. You'll face the consequences either way. So, just as she was about to apologize for pushing Heinle, Heinle also gathered his courage, wanting to confess to his wife. I have something to confess to you. I am the Empress. Heinle clenched his fists, but judging by his expression, he clearly already knew. I'm sorry, King of England. Seeing him apologize like a schoolboy in front of me, it was somehow strangely cute. What's going on? The next second, Heinle transformed into a golden bird, all his clothes falling to the ground, looking pitiful as he tried to get away with it. I even found myself cute, but he still wouldn't look at his girlfriend's body. It was an unprecedented blow. But just thinking about such a kawaii bird turning into a human, it was an irresistible sight. Her little heart couldn't take it. Confused, she said, I'm not angry. Quickly go somewhere I can't see you. Turn back into a human, and then come find me. The mighty King of England, escaping through the window of his wife's room without clothes. Heinle, have you no shame? You're all shocked. Just imagine the king running out naked. What were they doing in the room before? I have to say, even jumping into the Yellow River couldn't wash away this suspicion. You say you were just talking. Who would believe that? They're husband and wife. It's fine. But thinking that others might have seen Heinle's body, Ravia's heart couldn't help but feel uneasy. Fortunately, Heinle was a bird. Handsome men always have a nice scent. Heinle's clothes had a fresh fragrance, didn't they? However, thinking about how she used to cry just because she wasn't accepted as the Jewel Empress now, who knows where she's crying now? So Ravia decided to ask Mastas, as a knight, whether there had been situations of misunderstanding and anger before. Even if I was furious, His Highness probably wouldn't care at all. Could it be that His Highness misunderstood you, thought you were angry, so he jumped out the window? What happened that made him so panicked he ran away naked? His Highness usually likes to smile. He rarely shows a shocked expression. Unexpectedly, hearing this, Ravia was stunned. She originally thought he was just a sensitive person. This was also her misunderstanding. But why does he cry so easily in front of her? What else could it be? Of course, it's love. But our Ravia, with zero dating experience, doesn't know this. She only felt that things had gotten out of hand. She grabbed Hyene's clothes and prepared to find him. Oh my, Your Highness, what you're holding is His Majesty's underwear. Do you still want the king to have a reputation in society? Meanwhile, in the Eastern Empire, Sobi Ishio was very dedicated to playing the role of a father, even singing to the affectionate baby. In Rasta's eyes, this man seemed even more charming. Even his hair seemed to glow. You know, for an emperor of a country to personally provide prenatal education for his child. He's truly the perfect man. The baby will surely remember Dad's voice. Rasta wanted to cherish every moment with the Emperor. Jinu came forward to announce that Marquis Carol was requesting an audience. I have to say, Rasta is really greedy. She still looks like a pitiful baby. Unexpectedly, that day, the Emperor saw a newspaper from the Western Kingdom. Forgive Ravia for overhearing. She had promised Rasta that she would definitely divorce. After the divorce, there's no need to pay attention to the ex-wife. But by that day, Ravia had completely forgotten about him. The next morning, just as she was about to go find Pei Lu with his clothes, Ravia looked at her. Brother Xiao Lu, I have to say, Ravia is formidable. She directly confronted Hain Lu, saying, I've seen you bathing. As for blushing, only Hain Lu did. Before that, Ravia met her brother Xiao Lu outside Hain Li's office. But unexpectedly, our Ravia hadn't cried yet, but Xiao Lu was already crying. This 200-pound big guy, such a big person, still needs his sister to wipe his tears. As for the reason he was crying, it was because he learned about his sister's divorce. He was heartbroken. Only he could love his family's treasure. I wanted to rush to see you, but I didn't want to influence you like in the Eastern Empire, so I held back. How could I think of you like that? It feels like Ravia has already entered child comforting mode. I was worried that you divorced because of me, so I wanted to behave properly. But even without your brother, Sobi Shio would have driven you away to put Rasta on the throne. But strangely, you don't meet with me, yet you're close with Hain Lu. Then Xiao Lu explained. Hain Lu allowed him to participate in the Knights Parade, arranging for the commoner brother-in-law to participate in the Western Kingdom's traditional activities, just to improve his reputation. I have to say, Hain Lu is truly a wife-doting maniac, the epitome of loving the house and its crow. He takes everything about his wife to heart and puts it into action. Ravia's heart softened. It seems he really likes you. Even his brother-in-law vouches for his sincerity. But Ravia thought this liking wasn't love. When will you two start a sweet romance? After meeting her brother, she returned Hain Li's clothes. Unexpectedly, as soon as he saw Ravia seriously holding the clothes, he broke into a smile. This time, she decided to confess her feelings to Hain Lu first. Hain Lu was still the same, with his clothes and that timid expression, afraid his wife might be angry. I want to be honest with you. Do you want to know the real reason I've been avoiding you? As long as you're not angry, I want to know everything about you. I've been so worried about this that I couldn't sleep at night. My queen, I don't want you to hate me, even though I know you don't love me yet. Without beating around the bush, I'll tell you the reason directly. I've seen you without clothes. That scene keeps flashing before my eyes. So, I couldn't look at you directly, because my mind was full of your image from that night, making me feel flustered. And so, our Hain blushed again and again, lacking composure. What? You say you think about me every day. I see. Although that's the truth, you're being too direct, aren't you? My dear wife, you could do whatever you want with me, naked or with a small scarf. You could even ask me to dance for you. But of course, the audience won't have that privilege. He could feel his face was hot enough to fry an egg. His wife was truly formidable. Where did you see me then? Recently by the fountain in the palace. Which means he was all wet, and his wife saw everything. Now Ravia felt relieved. Come on, pull yourself together. Wanting to see your wife, yet being all sneaky and hesitant. Our Ravia was more straightforward. It's just being new at this. I'll take the lead. And so, naturally, they blushed again. Have you eaten? Let's eat together. Perhaps influenced by Hain Li's love, our girl felt a bit shy. So the two sweetly prepared to go eat. But the real show was just beginning. My queen, do I really keep appearing in your thoughts? Hain Lu, getting carried away, started teasing Ravia. So Ravia retorted again. They were just like children. Seeing your big reaction, I'm relieved. It shows my wife can't forget about me. After we're married, I can let you see everything all day. What is there that our audience can't see? Teasing Ravia became Hain Li's new hobby. Men's competitiveness, you know. But the Ravia before him suddenly noticed the handkerchief Hain Lu was preparing to wipe with. Isn't this the one Hain Lu and I tied around the queen's neck? Caught you. Isn't that mine? How dare you laugh at me? It was for the bird, not for you. Don't think I'll forget just because I didn't mention it. Now Hain Lu was all puffed up. I am that bird, so it was for me. However, our pure Ravia's mind was filled with the world's first naked body. Hain Lu sighed. I didn't expect Her Highness to have such a day. Still trying to deny thinking about anything. But our Hain Lu wouldn't miss this golden opportunity. My queen, if there's anything you want to see, you can tell me. Whatever you're imagining, I can make it a reality. I have to say, Heinlo was truly cunning. Meanwhile, Sobi Shio was working overtime, sending people to deliver a letter to Rabia, explaining why he divorced. Let's just say, can you stop causing trouble? Leave our queen alone, please. I'm begging you. The husband is about to marry, yet still contacting his ex-wife. They divorced because of cheating before. Who knows what this old six-old trick is about? Every move of the royal family is closely watched. Rasta becoming the queen has become a hot topic. It's really frustrating. Who knew rejecting a lowly would lead to this? If she becomes the queen, she'll definitely take revenge on us immediately. Rodexi didn't care at all. They're just small fry. Even if they want our lives, they should consider that we still have their fatal weakness in our hands. But if she doesn't even spare her own child, then it's worth paying attention to. How to handle this woman? Marquis Rodexiu's spy in the palace came to report that His Majesty secretly sent people to the Western Kingdom with no official record. The young emperor, why would he suddenly send people to the Western Kingdom secretly? What does he want to do? I heard it was to deliver a letter. Marquis Rodexiu had a flash of insight. This is like a dream come true. It seems the emperor is sending a letter to the former queen. The content doesn't matter. It's enough to scare Rasta. So Marquis Rodexiu hurriedly ran to Rasta to tattle. We don't know the content now. Our power hasn't reached that level yet. We can't intercept the emperor's messenger. That would be like lighting a lamp in a latrine, asking for death. Hearing him ramble on, Rosalind knew his intentions. He wanted to extort money from her again. Although she knew this scumbag wasn't trustworthy, he was currently her closest ally. She didn't know if the emperor was having a fit, being sweet with her while writing letters behind her back. Indeed, men are unreliable. One can only rely on oneself. Aren't we already working together? That's good. That's good. I'll clear the path for you to become the queen. Shouldn't your highness show some appreciation? He knew this thing couldn't escape an invitation. While Rasta was in a state of constant worry, our guy was much happier. The maids were joking, asking if he and Kshara were twins. That poor head looked exactly the same. Could it be that you have feelings for Kshara? I didn't expect Mastas to be such a pervert. As Ruth prepared to enjoy the drama, my brother said he was very strong and wanted to spar with him. Then go spar. You mean martial arts? What weirdo would call sparring interesting? Please, I think you've read too many novels. Watching them bicker, the others could imagine how the maids from the Eastern Empire would look after arriving here. Regarding the newlywed husband's request to sleep together and have her dress him, Rabia could only stop him. This was a paid feature, and the audience couldn't see it. But for now, she didn't have time for that. Rabia was making her debut in the Western Kingdom's social circle. Currently, among the many social figures in the Western Kingdom, Duke Mibert was in Krista's camp. However, his niece had reconciled with the former queen, as they were both once queen candidates. It was necessary to understand the relationships between these people, but trying to win them over was pointless. Rabia had her own plans. Her friend Nyin, the former Duchess of Anya, could help her solidify her social status as queen if she were by her side. But how to send her a message without drawing attention? Got it. She'd have that reporter interview her again. I'm doing well in the Western Kingdom, but I often think of my old friends. Countess Elisa, Countess Delidel, and Marquis's daughter. Nyin had promised to help her. She would surely come when she heard this news. Once she arrived, she'd become a social star in the Western Kingdom. With Nyin's excellent social skills, Rabia could also befriend the Western Kingdom socialites. Everything was under Rabia's control, but Heinlu was worried. My queen, are you lonely? You didn't consider that you have no acquaintances here. It breaks my heart. What should I do? I met that reporter, he told me. Hein tightly held Rabia's hand, feeling heartbroken. If you're willing, I can accompany you overnight as the queen. I'll stay obediently by your side, and you can love me as much as you want. No one could resist a coquettish big bird, but I want to dress you. Okay. Will you dress me with your own hands? Can we broadcast this? As the conversation was about to run wild, I quickly dragged this guy away. In the Eastern Empire, Rosa, bored out of her mind, went to the queen's room. In a hidden compartment of the chair, she found documents under Rabia's name. National budget for orphanages, nursing homes, support for unmarried parents, and other royal welfare projects. She also left a letter for Rasta, hoping she would continue these welfare projects for the people after becoming queen. She even left a large sum of money, hoping Rasta would use it to support these welfare projects in the royal family's name. Wouldn't it have been better to leave it to improve her own reputation? Why in the royal family's name? Hypocrite. Today, my wife cornered me against the wall. I'm so happy. If only she'd give me a kiss. Sobi Shio couldn't enjoy such happiness. He was still worried whether Navia had received his apology. Even if she knew the divorce was a misunderstanding, she wouldn't come back. A good horse doesn't eat old grass. The emperor wanted to have his cake and eat it too, desiring both women. It was too greedy. They didn't have children, but Navia had sponsored a child named Eberly. This child was clearly a breakthrough point. Sobi wanted to call his secretary immediately to inquire about the child's situation. He was still studying at the Magic Academy, sponsored by the former queen's family. Make them stop. Sponsoring a child without magic is a waste of money. Undeniably, the emperor was acting arbitrarily, completely disregarding the child's feelings and insisting on bringing him to the palace. In his view, he was considering the child's future, using this as a pretext to keep the child. He fantasized that when Navia returned, the three of them could live together like a family. The emperor's thoughts were truly beautiful. But Mujuin just wanted to say, "Halo Ravia, give me 2 kids in 3 years. That'll kill that old turtle Sobi Ishio." Whether the emperor was furious or not was unknown, but Roka was certainly angry enough to punch a wall. This was too disgusting. What did it mean to bring the former queen's favorite child to the palace? Did they want to rekindle their relationship, thinking it was a political marriage, and now pulling this stunt? The emperor was truly an indecisive scumbag. This delighted Viscount Rolexio. "I told you to be more vigilant, didn't I? That little Rasta is now just an ant in my palm. He can't turn the tables on his own. Even if he's willful, he's still just a child. Dealing with him is no big deal." Unexpectedly, after Viscount Rodexio left, a maid came to speak well of the emperor. "His Majesty isn't that kind of person. What do you know about His Majesty? Who are you to claim you know His Majesty better than I, his wife? This whore doesn't know what's in her belly. Anti-slip intestines." The scene in the Western Kingdom was much more pleasant. Heinle just gave a domineering wall slam. "My queen, I was quite moved just now." "Heinle, shouldn't that be your line? What's wrong with you? They say ignorance is bliss. This carefree attitude, not knowing others are bullying you. You shouldn't be so lonely with me by your side, right?" This kid's face was thicker than city walls. Those big, dog-like attentive eyes were still fixed on Ravia. So Ravia began to comfort him like a child. Missing friends doesn't mean life is lonely. The pure-hearted bird was already married, yet still wanted to propose to his wife. "When my wife is happy, I'm happy. When my wife is sad, I'm sad. I'm my wife's little sweetheart." He thought Ravia was very lonely, so he could become the queen and sneak into her bed. But now the plan had fallen through. But when Ravia said, "I still have you by my side," Heinle didn't hear anything else. Wasn't this a pure confession? The queen was happy because of him. That's great, but there was still one problem. Ravia said this while releasing Heinle's hand. "Without my dear wife's kiss, I feel so lonely." I went to the grand banquet hall. I felt the wedding decorations were too luxurious. You should know this is his wedding with his beloved woman. Heinle didn't want to give him a shabby wedding. The problem wasn't the luxury itself, but his special status. So his words and actions must be particularly careful. But Heinle had already lowered the standards after considering this. "My queen, I have something to confess to you." Ravia was very curious. Did Heinle still have secrets from her? But looking at Heinle, with his red face and pathetic look, could it be that he wanted to say he liked her? But Heinle was very cheerful. "Oh, you've already guessed." So she also calmed her slightly agitated heart. But it was all his guess, as expected of the queen. In Heinle's eyes, his dear wife was omnipotent. "I love you even more." "Okay, can you predict the future?" Heinle was Ravia's #1 fanboy. For this, he'd bang his head against the wall. But his liking her was easy to guess. Originally, their arranged marriage was more of a loss than a gain for Heinle. Only liking her would make him willing to marry her. Unexpectedly, Heinle got down on one knee. "I originally wanted to give you a surprise." This woman was the woman he loved deeply. He wanted to give her the best of everything. "On our wedding day, you will become the first empress of the Western Kingdom." Unexpectedly, the worldly wise Ravia was stunned by this statement. "Empress, don't you want to?" Heinle was almost crying with anxiety. Ravia was still in a daze. There was a reason for this. The Western Kingdom had great power and endless wealth, but had never upgraded to an empire. But she was about to witness this moment in history. At the center of the scene, she was about to become a part of history. Ravia secretly vowed to become an excellent empress. So, Ravia began diligently studying Western Kingdom state affairs. But the path to becoming empress wasn't smooth sailing. A day apart feels like 3 autumns. Every moment without my wife by my side feels like years. I want to be close to my wife. So what was our dear Hien Li's wife doing? The third-ranked royal news agency wanted to interview the new princess. Looking at the reporter's gleaming eyes, it seemed they were ready to go all out for a big scoop. But our Ravia wasn't a pushover. She was ready to deflect or bury any incoming attacks. This reporter first lavished praise on Ravia's sleeping quarters. Then, moving on to the main topic, they immediately threw out a smoke bomb. As a former empress, you must be full of patriotic feelings for the Eastern Empire. If the Eastern Empire and the Western Kingdom were to compete over some interest, you must find yourself in a difficult position, right? Such an obvious trap question. One wrong step and you'd hit a landmine. There are always many people facing difficulties in this world. Besides Ravia, Rasta's maid Delice was also very troubled. Speaking up for the emperor in front of Rasta, but with the wedding preparations being so complex, the mayor simply gave him a short break. It was just right to rest up for the upcoming wedding. This Delice still had a mischievous look on her face. When she told her brother about angering Rasta, he didn't even believe her, because Rasta had many die-hard fans among the common people. Rasta was the spokesperson for the commoners, okay. Banging their heads against the wall for their idol was nothing to them. Besides, Rasta didn't care about what the nobles thought. The nobles who revealed the truth certainly looked down on him. He was simply the hope of the common people, our eternal God. Let's all cheer for him. Rasta, well done. But clearly, Delice's ears were buzzing. The scene of Rasta scolding her was still vivid. Wasn't he supposed to be very gentle? I can only say, girl, you're truly naive. But to be fair, we can't always blame Rasta. You often blush in front of the emperor, acting all flustered. How can that not make your master suspicious? Meanwhile, on this side, the reporter's thorny question was dead serious. Seeing the woman before him as calm, as if divinely inspired, the reporter grew nervous. The possibility of such a thing happening is very small. My choice cannot sway the final decision. The reporter had hoped to make Ravia panic, but unexpectedly, Ravia gave such a smooth answer. She knew that the main task of a country's leader is not international affairs, but domestic matters. Meeting with Brother Kaufman, though it was about planning international trade, was also because Sobi Shio, the emperor, had given up on it himself. This hardly counts as a dispute between the Eastern Empire and the Western Kingdom. Newlyweds not being able to spend every second together is simply unconscionable. This left Hien Li, who had wife withdrawal symptoms and wanted to carry his wife like a bag, at a loss. Should he tuck her into his waistband and carry her around? Hien Li's wife had absolutely no self-awareness. This woman's mind was full of career ambitions. After seeing off the reporter, Ravia received some surprising news. Her maids from the Eastern Empire had arrived. In the capital, it was our lovely Rolla and Lady Dalbeth, who wouldn't want to be close to the soft and fragrant queen. Hien Li felt very depressed. I haven't had enough of hugging my wife, and now these folks are coming to take advantage. But the atmosphere here was harmonious. Old friends reuniting. It was quite lively. Ravia also introduced Rose and Mercedes, hoping they could work well together. They greeted each other. Mercedes' introduction was like a puppet on strings. But none of that mattered. In Ravia's eyes, being able to reunite was a kind of happiness. Although Rose and Mercedes were now her friends, Rolla and Lady Dalbeth had also once been her strength. With all her friends gathered, she felt a happiness and satisfaction she had never experienced before. Soon after, more good news arrived. The Duchess of Tuania had come. That beautiful lady was still as radiant as ever. She stepped forward with a greeting, Duchess of Tuania. Long time no see. I'm no longer the Duchess of Tuania. Well, there's no helping it. Old wounds. Unable to change, this made Ravia worry about how to address her. After all, she might have already married Viscount Ramblet. Just call me Nien. After all, he hasn't married. Tired of married life, he's now just in a relationship with Viscount Ramblet. If they have a child, they can marry later when registering the child. After exchanging pleasantries, Nien finally brought up hearing about Ravia's remarriage. She found me through reports. Do you have something to ask of me? Indeed. Hien Li's brother died young, leaving behind his young wife. The key is she has the qualities of a queen consort. Awkwardly, there's no position of Empress Dowager. Plus, she has many supporters. Now only you can help me. I need your abilities. Please influence the social circles here. Meanwhile, Hien-lo was grinding his teeth in frustration. You know, we're newlyweds. I get depressed if I can't see my bride for even a second. Okay. While Hien was busy with various matters, news came that a knight order had secretly camped near the capital. Do you know what the highest level of a woman's charm is? Yin Nu, the world's most powerful knight commander seeking help, becoming a follower of the queen. Only her husband Hien-lo wasn't surprised. My dear wife is naturally beloved by all. He had just been wondering about the knight order camped at the new kingdom's gates, wondering who they were. You said you were familiar with this. This is a super international knight order composed of teams from across the continent. This time, they're not here for unification, but to repay your highness's kindness. As for who's leading them, I haven't guessed yet, but clearly, Hien got the latest intel. This guy is really keeping a low profile. You should know, the Super International Knight Order is also called the Shadow Knights. The leader has emergency mobilization authority. They're above any country, only fulfilling the basic principle of defending continental peace. In this invincible existence, it turns out to be Viscount Randley. He looks simple, but Bettini is actually a prominent figure. It's been a while, asking soldiers to openly advise, what's the purpose? After all, that formation made the Western Kingdom citizens' hearts race, thinking war was about to break out. Previously, Queen Ravia saved my life. I want to repay her kindness. The Western Kingdom instantly became agitated. What's the Queen's story? So curious. Also, repaying kindness is fine, but why bring the Knight Order? What's this about? Under everyone's attention, Randley said if you're willing, before the Queen's official guards are determined, my knights and I will protect the Queen. You know, the Knight Order only intervenes to ensure continental peace. Now they're asking to be Ravia's personal knights. As expected of my woman. Just say it directly. Hien wouldn't miss these moments of his wife's glory. But Krista obviously couldn't be happy about this. On the surface, she said this was great, but Barimi fantasized how good it would be if he had done this. Although cursing internally countless times, she still had to send Ravia a flower basket in congratulations. Getting nothing, but still having to give a gift. This made someone hope for a chance at fame. The former queen consort offering congratulations is expected. You know, not long ago, Prince Lime met with a noble lady. In my eyes, this is the behavior of a noble lady from Naren. Speaking of Ravia and Hien-lo, you're married now. When are you having children? On one side, the ex-husband improvises that the divorce was just to register the child. It was actually a fake divorce. On the other side, someone wants to promote sister-in-law literature. Former queen consort, I say you should give me a soccer team. Actually, these green tea bitches, white lotuses, and scumbags. After all, in Krista's eyes, Ravia has already made her an enemy. But Fahai is marrying a noble lady from the Western Kingdom, also hard to escape Krista's sphere of influence. But Ravia, as the former Empress of the Eastern Empire, is also beloved by the king. How can her arrogance be curbed? Can't just hand over the social circles to her so easily. Completely speechless. You're already the former queen consort. Can you calm down a bit? Don't make trouble. Over there, Ravia is approaching Randley. Miss Ravia, I've come to repay your kindness. Please allow us to be your personal knight order. What does this mean? Only then did she realize that the person before her was the knight commander. No wonder Lee, and had been so mysterious earlier, talking about repaying him with such enthusiasm. What an earth-shattering plot twist. Ravia's damn charm. But Mastas didn't care at all, only wanting to duel with the new knight. What to do with this child of the world? Just indulge him. Ravia could only tacitly allow him to continue non-public duels. Although a drop of kindness should be repaid with a gushing spring, Ravia's actions weren't demanding repayment. As for whether to let Lian be her maid, she clearly had a more suitable position. Everyone was immersed in a relaxed atmosphere. At this time, Lola brought news that the Eastern Empire had sent someone to advise. Logically, she shouldn't have anyone in the Eastern Empire, but unexpectedly, Sobi's smiling secretary appeared before her. No wonder Lola looked constipated. This thing, even after divorce, he's still sending his underling to see her. Miss Ravia, I've come on His Majesty's orders to deliver a letter to you. Lola immediately snatched the letter, her eyes signaling, all right now, scram. Thinking this was the Emperor's underling, Lola could barely control her murderous intent. Regarding the letter's contents, Sobi apologized sincerely. Ravia had been infertile for years. As for his desire to register his illegitimate child, then oust his childhood sweetheart Empress and let her father be emperor for a year. She should understand, right? I had planned to restore everything after a year, but accidentally went too far. Haha, is this even human speech? Although Sobi Aishio wasn't present, his ability to disgust people was still formidable. If not for personal experience, Ravia would never believe there could be such a disgusting man in this world. After reading Sobi Aishio's so-called apology letter, Ravia felt sick in her heart. The former adulterous couple's passionate love was clearly based on novelty in her belly. Sobi Aishio was truly selfish to the extreme, only ever considering his own interests. He had never once considered things from Ravia's perspective. Not even once. When she was about to lose everything, it was Hyene who extended a helping hand. What Sobi Aishio said in his heart about planning to restore everything after a year, this guy never thought about whether Rasta, if she knew she was just Sobi Aishio's pawn, would obediently take off the crown and let me become Empress again. Even if Rasta stepped down, I'd have to become the stepmother to Rasta's child. How would that child view him? Anyway, such noble emperors don't worry about these things. Lena also learned that her wife's ex-husband was trying to steal her, disregarding her own status. Once again, sneaking into her wife's room through the window. I want to talk to you here. The pitiful little one didn't dare state the reason directly, but she strongly disapproved of this window-jumping behavior. You are the king. Mind your image. As for her scolding Hyene, he found it very effective. My wife scolding me means she loves me. This guy must have grown up eating sugar. You really know how to talk. But now is the time to handle state affairs. Is there something urgent? This is so urgent, it's like the house is on fire. Is it urgent or not? Seeing his cowardly appearance, doesn't Ravia know? I heard about the Eastern Empire sending a messenger. Yes, Hyene was afraid. Afraid Ravia would soften her heart. Looking at the sour Hyene, she was quite exasperated. I did receive a letter, but I didn't write back. Hyene's face instantly changed, his body going soft. Looking at the big puppy before her, she decided she should comfort him. Hyene, I'm your wife now. I won't leave you. Don't worry a second time. Great. The red heart finally returned to his belly. This thing, he almost lost his wife. Who made this pig? I want to see his blushing cheeks. She actually found his smile as sweet as a strawberry cake. She never had this feeling with Sobi Aishio before. Why is that? Perhaps this is true love. A wonderful emotion she had never experienced in all these years. As they say, comparing people can be deadly, and comparing goods can make you want to throw things away. Compared to the cute and handsome Hyene Lu, Sobi Aishio always had a deathly pale face. However, it wasn't just Sobi Aishio. He was scolded harshly at the Uyghur Magic Academy. Who would have thought that a Grand Duke would understand black market transactions? Not only did he drink a strange potion, but he couldn't find an antidote. These days, the Duke had tried all kinds of antidotes from Lin Xiaoba, all to no effect. As the top graduate of the Magic Academy, he must have been out of options to seek help from his teacher. Seeing his teacher at a loss, the Duke pressed hard. Do you have any other solutions? Before discussing solutions, we can deduce 3 reasons for these symptoms. First, because it was handmade, it might be particularly effective on you. Second, recently, magician's magic power has been gradually disappearing, causing instability and mutation in magical potions. Lastly, perhaps you were already in love with that person before drinking the potion. The Duke's heart raced, but he still felt this was impossible. Just then, a student came to inform that people from the Western Kingdom had come to see the Duke. Hearing Western Kingdom, the Duke's mind immediately became active. Isn't that the country where Queen Ravia remarried? Meanwhile, Sobi Aishio learned that Ravia hadn't replied to his letter. He exploded on the spot. Away said, Miss Vivi understood your difficulties, but she didn't say anything. How is that possible? Sobi Aishio entered repeat mode. You know how sincere I was. Shouldn't she return to me immediately? The secretary continued diligently reporting, telling Sobi that Viscount Ico Langlai, the commander of the 5th International Night Order, announced he would temporarily stay in the Western Kingdom as Miss Ravia's personal guard. Also, Princess Tuemia's wife. A year and a half of setbacks made the emperor emotionally collapse. He immediately summoned Duke Tuenia to his presence. He passionately ranted, I'm already in a mess, and now you've lost your wife. Now I have to clean up after you. Duke Tuenia was also aggrieved. You should know, the news of his wife's affair with another man was told to him by Rasta. He just didn't listen to his wife's explanation. He carelessly believed it. What kind of woman is extremely beneficial to her husband? Not only did she bring the former former husband's top talents under her command, but also a knight commander with supreme martial arts. A social butterfly who could dominate social circles with a word, and even foreign powers that had fallen out with her ex-husband. She expanded one by one. But in her ex-husband's view, he was just jealous, hating her out of love. But his little lover wasn't a pushover either. I'm furious. The news of others' love affair was told to me by Miss Rosa. Faced with such accusations, the Emperor had to start recalling. Rosa did indeed have a pleasant conversation with Duke Tuania right under his nose. But so what? It's your own fault for not understanding. How can you blame the misunderstanding on Rasta? Looking at the gloomy-faced Emperor before him, the Duke's hair stood on end. I also saw you smiling and chatting endlessly with Rasta. If one hears of their wife's infidelity, probably no one would look happy, let alone smile. But that was all because Rasta was asking about secret meeting places in the palace. She also said she saw a noble couple hugging and kissing there. She spoke naturally, even looking shy. I only smiled because she looked so innocent. The Duke's confession clearly let the Emperor grasp the key point. Rosa didn't mention your wife. The Duke certainly wouldn't accept this conclusion. Although Rosa didn't directly name names, when describing that couple, she directly pointed out many of his wife's characteristics. Isn't that as good as naming her? Who could stand it? A head of red curly hair, Lanza fans' eyes. Most importantly, a beauty mark below the left corner of her mouth. Isn't that Neil herself? I'm not an idiot. Smart people only hint at things. But the Emperor couldn't let him have his way. She didn't say who it was. It's just your own guess. The Duke was also furious. Isn't this directly obvious? But the Emperor was clearly trying to protect his mistress. Damn it, talking to him was useless. The Duke finally understood his accusations were futile. His face turned black as a pot. Damn it, talking is like farting. Although the Emperor won the conversation, his mood was also extremely gloomy. He had long known that Rosa had another face behind his back. Hearing it from someone else's mouth felt like a different matter entirely. Soon, another piece of news broke the Emperor's defenses. Duke Kaufman had set off for the Western Kingdom. He owed the Emperor an explanation. Who cares who takes this job? Fine, the Viscountess and Duchess have all run to Ravia's side. But now, even Duke Kaufman is rushing off to the Western Kingdom. In the Emperor's view, this situation was simply Ravia toying with him. How does a perfect woman's life progress toward success? First, marry a devoted puppy-like husband who's always affectionate. Then build up your career, securing positions like Knight Commander and social talent. Be able to handle state affairs internally and communicate with foreign countries externally. Establish diplomacy. Finally, have a football team's worth of children and live happily together. You ask me what my ex-husband is. I probably don't even know who he is. But the ex-husband I want doesn't think so. He actually wants to insult me by recruiting talents from the former Great Empire. The Emperor couldn't tolerate this. Viscount Carell, when is Ravia's wedding date? It's about the same as the scared wedding date. This won't do. I can't be outdone by my ex-wife. Move the date forward. We must hold it before them. Be sure to send an invitation to the king of the Western Kingdom. Tell him he must come. I want Ravia to know what a wrong choice she made. With the wedding ceremony date moved up, Rosa began tirelessly trying on wedding dresses. Her unparalleled beauty, paired with the gorgeous dress, was simply breathtakingly beautiful. When the Emperor came to visit Rosa, though he thought the same internally, a mistress becoming Empress in a second marriage obviously couldn't be too high profile. It would provoke public dissatisfaction. So when Rosa twirled her skirt, showing off her beauty 360 degrees, and asked for the Emperor's opinion, hoping for his praise, he said, "Isn't this too luxurious?" One sentence destroyed so much tenderness. You should change to a simpler one. Rosa immediately burst into tears. Your Majesty, Rosa wants to wear this. There will be plenty of chances to wear fancy dresses in the future. But once a woman starts crying, she won't listen to reason. A special day calls for special clothes. I just want to be someone worthy of your Majesty. Seeing Rosa sobbing with her big belly, knowing pregnancy makes one emotionally sensitive, the Emperor thought it's just a dress. Let her have her way. Meanwhile, in the new kingdom, all was peaceful and harmonious. The maids from the Eastern Empire and the Western Kingdom were chattering together, making Ravia smile like a contented mother. They've become close so quickly. That's wonderful. In the Eastern Empire, I had Sir Araby Ira to protect me. Here, Viscount Landeli's knights take turns guarding me. Everything has returned to its place. I can finally relax. But happiness is always fleeting. A maid came to visit, breaking this tranquility. Who would refuse a king who climbs through windows? Ravia was worried, feeling she had prematurely entered the child-rearing stage. The key is that this former princess doesn't let one feel at ease. Under the pretext of celebrating Ravia's personal night order, she sent a maid to deliver flowers to Ravia. She even emphasized that Krista grew them herself. Please convey my thanks to her. Ravia maintained a dignified and gracious princess demeanor. As soon as the former princess's maid left, Rose started muttering. It seems the former princess is quite envious of the night order. Why don't we throw these flowers away? She was indifferent to the princess before, but now she's sending flowers. It's suspicious, Lady Delabev suggested. Alright, I was just joking. It wouldn't look good for royal family members to openly fall out. Meanwhile, Ravia was considering what to send as a return gift. Why not send locust flowers? But to Mastas this seemed incredible, reluctantly sending a return gift to her. It must be said that Mastas is still too naive. Even pretending to be close is better than being hostile. In the following days, Ravia enjoyed some rare days of rest. Min and Landalai would come to the palace every few days to show off their love. Landalai, this love-crazed husband, had an innocent face. It turns out to be the night order that strikes fear into people's hearts. The leader's gap mo is just too much, but seeing them so lovey-dovey, even being showered with dog food is forgivable. After a brief tea party, they bid farewell. Suddenly, it occurred that Sobian should have learned he didn't get a reply. Given his personality, he'd probably be hopping mad at the news. He used to be such a pure and innocent boy when he was little. Who knows how he turned into what he is now? While pondering, the familiar voice of Haiying was heard again. Haiying, Yuho. Appearing at the window, it's obviously that guy. I told him to use the front door, but he just won't listen. Lavia quickly pulled the curtain shut, leaving Haiying pleading outside. Your Majesty, I'm sorry. Finally, in my lifetime, I've witnessed a kiss scene between Lavia and Haiying. The editor does a spiral roll on the spot, praying for them to do it again. Haiying was locked out of the window by Lavia. But before a minute had passed, Lavia softened and let the sad puppy crouching in the corner in. Don't sit there looking so pitiful. Get up. Seeing your wife being proactive, Qianqian was stunned. He started explaining that he was used to entering through the window, but Lavia said it was exclusive to the queen. Then I'll become the queen, he said. But Lavia replied that the queen needs to be dressed. Oh, is that so? Will you dress me yourself then? Knowing this was just another of his schemes, Lavia decided to ignore him. Seeing his wife about to get angry, Hein quickly said he had something to tell her. One good news and one bad news. The good news is that the date for our wedding anniversary has finally been set. After that, we'll be a legally married couple. Now I can finally declare in front of everyone that I am your man and you are my woman. Haiying's heartfelt confession caught Lavia off guard. These two must be masters of sweet talk. Lavia could only hide her shyness and ask what the bad news was. Hearing about this bad news is really sickening. The Emperor of the Eastern Empire has sent out invitations, inviting them to attend his wedding ceremony. Oh my God, a wedding invitation. Are the ex and the ex's current partner planning to fight? But there's no choice. Let Aishio and Baosher do as they please, as long as they don't cause trouble. We can't refuse to see our parents and friends just because of an ex-husband. Unexpectedly, our Haiying was very understanding. Let's go together. My parents are also in the Eastern Empire. What? Does Haiying have parents in the Eastern Empire? The next second, Lavia learned that these parents were actually Lavia's parents. Haiying announced with a hum that he would definitely win the hearts of her parents this time. Lavia found Haiying incredibly adorable. While she was distracted, Haiying took the chance to kiss her cheek. After the sneak attack, he whispered in Lavia's ear, "When will I be able to become your new husband?" He breathed. Haiying's online flirting skills were on point. The usually cold and icy Lavia actually blushed for love, because Haiying wanted to win Lavia's heart. These words left Lavia confused. She had never discussed topics of love before. Haiying looked at Lavia with a troubled expression. In the end, he could only smile indulgently yet helplessly. "You can answer me later. It's okay. I can wait." After their meeting ended, Lavia hid by the window to cool off. Haiying's warmth just now made her heart race. Why is it like this? Is it because Haiying is too good at flirting? His sweet words are so smooth, I'm all dizzy. Before Lavia could figure out why she was blushing, Shalimian returned with freshly picked apples from the orchard. Thinking about Shalimian, he would definitely follow her back to the Eastern Empire. She still needed to tell them about attending Sobiai and Shio's wedding. How should she bring it up? His Majesty the King just came by. What? His Majesty. I didn't see him. He came through the window. I have 2 pieces of news to tell you. The maids all put down their work. Upon learning that the wedding ceremony date had been set, their faces lit up with smiles. Then hearing that Sobii invited Lavia and her husband to attend the wedding ceremony, they thought it was truly unlucky. But as Lavia expressed her intention to attend the ceremony, the 2 exchanged a silent glance for a second. The emperor has invited them. What else can be done? They'll have to go. At this moment, Lola knocked on the door saying that Amores' butler was requesting an audience. Oh, isn't Amores Miss Rolani's family? Sure enough, the butler came forward saying he was sent by the young miss to inquire about the time and place of the princess's invitation. Please inform the young miss. Let's meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. Soon after, Miss Rolani successfully met with Lavia. What kind of words will she say that will make Lavia's maids grit their teeth in anger? The White Lotus, eyeing the younger brother-in-law, is about to be taken offline. How dare she knock on the female lead's husband? Let's see how Lavia drives her out of the Western Kingdom. On this side, the social butterfly of the Western Kingdom, facing the newly appointed princess, was also quite clever. Learning that the princess had always wanted to meet her, she quickly expressed that she had been eagerly waiting for her summons. These words were very pleasant to hear, but Lavia wasn't planning to beat around the bush. You've been waiting, I called you over. You must want to get something from me, right? Seeing the princess not following the usual script, Rolani dropped the act too. She directly stated, you should want me to help you. It's so easy to talk to smart people, they understand with just a hint. I will definitely help you. But what can I get in return? Lola's face fell immediately. How dare she set conditions for the princess? Lavia was very calm about this. There's no such thing as a free lunch. What benefit do you want to get? Please drive Miss Krista away. Clearly, she had thought about this condition for a long time. After all, the 2 had once competed for the position of princess. Afterwards, Krista's people often tormented Rolani, the people from the other faction, though it's unclear if it was on her orders. But as long as their faction leader leaves the palace, their faction will probably be finished. You should know that the former princess should have left the palace. It's unclear why she's still lingering here. During their meeting, Lavia was truly getting a headache. What choice should she make? Lola gave Lavia a hint. Rolani's attitude is so firm, it might also be because she wants to inherit the family title. As long as Krista's faction is driven away, then she would be the sole existence in the Western Kingdom's social circle. She would have more advantage in competing for the title. But the truth of this matter is still uncertain. If I ally with her, I could easily gain control of the social circle. But this also means completely falling out with Krista. What should I do? A good horse doesn't eat old grass, let alone when the ex is a poisonous weed. Lavia hadn't expected that bringing her current partner to her ex's wedding, this dramatic scenario would soon play out in her own life. As the former queen of a country, now having to attend her ex's wedding as the princess of another country, this feeling was truly peculiar. But the trip to the Eastern Empire was imminent. Lavia said, bring it on. She wasn't afraid at all. She packed her luggage, ready to depart, but she found no trace of Mastas. Before Lavia could ask more questions, Mastas came rushing in at full speed, his face radiating excitement for gossip. Princess, haven't you heard? I received a letter from my brother. Brother? Oh, it's that scarred knight, Lavia thought. My brother participated in the knight's tour and was grouped with Sir Gezer. The careless Mastas hadn't even packed his luggage, focusing all day on these fighting matters. Lavia sighed helplessly. It seems this guy will be boasting endlessly. Sure enough, during the journey, Mastas talked at length about how successful this knight's tour was. Gezer is about to become a superstar in the Western Kingdom. Of course, not because of shallow reasons like being incredibly handsome. It's just that when people state their grievances, usually there's an investigation first, then a judgment is made. But Gezer is different. He immediately uses his fist to investigate. Mastas continued, this style is too satisfying. Everyone hopes Gezer will grace them with his presence. After Mastas finished reading the letter, he felt that Gezer was truly an upright hero of the times. He misunderstood, but the result was right. As long as brother can be welcomed by the Western Kingdom's citizens, it's good. Just do your own thing well. Let parents see me living happily with Hang. They should be at ease then. Also, facing Sobii and Rose's happy and perfect appearance, I don't know what expression to use. After all, he always had an undisguised thought in his heart. That is, Sobii, do you see? He himself can still live happily. The king, disheveled, gets off the princess's carriage. What embarrassing thing happened? While Labia was still worrying about what expression to show to her ex. This side shows your face has already helped your husband come online. Height 1.8 meters. A handsome guy indicates he wants to sit in the same carriage as his wife. Dale was thunderstruck by his wife. We love you. All right, those with good eyesight quickly fled the scene. Seeing the king showing off like a peacock, the scene was quite eye-searing. And that thing maintained a silent state throughout, seemingly flowing with a different atmosphere. Thinking of his beautiful queen, it's been so long since he's seen the bird's feathers. As for people's clothes, so Hank's bird body equals wearing clothes. Because of this, can't he see the little bird he's been thinking of soon? Hank, can you turn into the queen? I want to hug you. He said this sentence righteously. How could he miss this opportunity to substitute for his wife? Hank immediately forgot what clothes were, turned into a golden big bird and pounced into Lavia's arms. Just stroking the big bird's face, this guy had a grinning face. Truly worthy of being the queen. There's no bird more outstanding than him. Simply a human machine emoji pack. My lovely golden eagle. Lavia hugged her beloved bird, feeling extremely happy. However, the tranquility didn't last for a few seconds. It immediately began to shake violently. Then there was a loud bang. Lavia's forehead consequently produced a noticeable pain. Merlin Hane cared about his wife. The guard requested His Majesty to come out, seeming that something had happened. Slowly, with his wife in his arms, he directly rose to the occasion. Hane, can you do it or not? Actually, they were calling for the king outside. As a result, His Majesty is still a bird without clothes. This won't do. Quickly turn into a human. No choice. Under his wife's commanding gaze, Hang had to obediently comply. Speaking of which, you two changing clothes, why do you need to turn your backs to each other? When Hang finally put on clothes, wanting to comfort the nervous Lavia, unexpectedly, a heaven-sent opportunity. With a clang from the carriage, the two became entangled. In this awkward position, our Hang instantly turned into a red bird. His mind wasn't clear. His mouth could only keep apologizing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The pure bird certainly didn't mean to. Then I also express understanding. Why don't you get off the carriage first? Otherwise, I don't know where to put my eyes. Hang agreed verbally, but then slipped. This time, he was directly face to face with his wife. Although voices of concern for the king rose and fell outside the carriage, Hang didn't try hard to care. Because he had leveled up, what to do so embarrassing. Hang suddenly hugged his wife. Just as I was about to push him away, Lavia's whole body shuddered. Don't move first. I'm afraid I can't control myself. What did Lavia see when she looked down? For a moment, she was at a loss. Just hold on for a bit. Looking at the teary-eyed Hang, Lavia could only suggest this. As time passed second by second, Hang finally calmed down. Now he shouldn't fall on flat ground, right? Only when Hang didn't leave did Lavia dare to open her eyes. She instantly appeared expressionless, but her little heart was still pounding. When things finally became clear, she discovered a terrible thing. The king left the queen's carriage in a disheveled state. After this encounter, the two being alone on the journey could be said to be extremely awkward. You're getting married, but the groom isn't me. The emperor drowned his sorrows in alcohol, crying bitterly, wailing his ex-wife's name. We say that late emotions are better than grass and weeds. Unfortunately, Lavia couldn't see him in this state. As the carriage drove into the Eastern Empire, Lavia's mood struggled fearlessly. How did the former citizens view this Western Kingdom carriage carrying the former Empress? In their eyes, what kind of image would I be? The maids quickly comforted Lavia, telling her not to mind what the Eastern Empire citizens think. Live for yourself. The group arrived at the Deloitte mansion, planning to spend the night there first. The old father, not having seen his daughter for a long time, cried with a small handkerchief. Then he heard Hang's sweet voice saying, "Father, don't cry anymore." In this rare opportunity for family reunion, Lavia spoke unusually much. Afterward, Hang still found it unbelievable. Was this still his usually quiet wife? But it's understandable. Everyone becomes talkative when facing their parents. The next morning, the two bid farewell to their parents and set off for the palace. Still troubled about not bonding well with his in-laws, he consoled himself that there's still time. There will be plenty of opportunities. Meanwhile, Rosa in the palace woke up from her dream. In the past, she couldn't sleep at all. The emperor beside her was nowhere to be seen. What's going on? Rosa quietly went out to look for the emperor. Walking to a room door, she opened a crack and saw the emperor drinking alone. This was very surprising. She wanted to call out to the emperor, but then heard him muttering something about Lavia. This man, not sleeping in the middle of the night, calling his ex-wife's name, while regretfully pounding his chest and shedding tears uncontrollably. It's truly unbelievable. Seeing the emperor's behavior, what kind of expression would Rosa show? Inviting the ex-wife as a guest to the wedding, the dog emperor appears calm on the surface, but cries bitterly in private, pounding his chest until it's bruised. Rosa, who was admiring her wedding dress, thought of this, and her whole mood soured. The emperor's heartbroken appearance made her feel as disgusted as if she had eaten excrement. Having one's cake and eating it too, who could tolerate such a thing? She didn't know where the bruises on his chest came from before. It turns out he pounded them himself over his ex-wife. Rosa was so angry her teeth itched, but she couldn't let others see her emotions. She could only temporarily shift her attention to the gifts, putting on a smiling face. As a result, the secretary thought she was in a good mood and tentatively announced that the Western Kingdom delegation had arrived in the capital. As for who was in the delegation, it was easy to guess. The emperor thought the former empress he had been thinking about was among them. Damn it. Rosa immediately felt a sense of crisis. She immediately ordered, "I want to be dressed even more gorgeously than now. Bring me all the jewels. I absolutely cannot be outdone by the former empress." On the other side, in the southern palace used for hosting distinguished guests in the Eastern Empire, let me recall the scene of Sobiai's embarrassment just now. Although he appeared calm, he reacted normally. But based on years of understanding, Lavia knew he was pretending. Looking at the palace that was once under her management, now familiar yet strange, Lavia's inner feelings were incredibly complex. She never thought that one day she would enter as a guest. One can't help but sigh at the unpredictability of life. Everything changes. When the group finally settled down, only Rose and Mastas remained by her side. Rolla and Lady Deloitte were ordered to return home. The group had been chattering together, but now it suddenly became quiet. The two felt very uncomfortable with this. But soon, someone came to break this rare silence. The long-unseen Countess Elisa. Seeing Lavia, she was so excited her eyes welled up with tears. Lavia was still sweetly in love, immersed in romance. The dog emperor appeared before them with a constipated look. "Dog cockroach, get lost. Don't block me from shipping my CP." Meanwhile, Lady Elisa was very concerned about Lavia's recent situation. Lavia quickly explained that she was doing well. Not only did she have caring maids, but she also reunited with her brother. As for how well Hang treated Lavia herself was too embarrassed to say. But Rose, the seasoned spokesperson, wouldn't miss this opportunity. The king and queen's relationship was excellent. They were so close they could almost wear the same pants. Hearing this, Lady Elisa finally beamed with joy. At this moment, the clingy Hang appeared, calling Empress repeatedly. He strongly complained about his wife forgetting him completely. The couple flirting in front of others was embarrassing, so Lavia decisively gave him a stern look. He had no dignity as a king at all. Really, missing his wife wasn't a crime. Hang felt wronged. "Empress, I missed you." Regarding Hang's passionate confession, the onlookers felt they were witnessing true love. Lavia looked at Hang, who was smiling and trying to please her. She decided to save face for him in public, but privately, there was still no progress. In the following days, Lavia met with her former maid friends. Soon it was time for the wedding ceremony. Lavia and Hang walked hand in hand on the path they had walked before. Recalling the past, back then she had to feed the Empress bugs. Who knew the Empress was actually Hang? You should know, at that time Hang was so scared he called for his mother. It's hard to believe that such a handsome guy was afraid of bugs. Hang instantly puffed up, retorting, "You're not afraid of bugs." When Lavia said she wasn't afraid, he immediately suggested, "Great, let's catch bugs on our next date." Just as the atmosphere was good, an ominous figure appeared. The shy and violent Sobiai came into view. The wife's ex-husband wanted to steal her back. Hang only needed a pitiful look, and his dear wife Lavia was instantly won over. The three met again at this narrow path. This scene couldn't help but remind people of the past. The emperor's appearance interrupted the conversation between Lavia and Hang. It was exactly the same as the current situation. Lavia found it amusing inside, but maintained a calm exterior. curtsying to the emperor. Sobiai looked at Lavia, but couldn't speak for a long time. After a while, he walked to Hang with a gloomy face, asking him to leave for a moment. But to Hang, this was a joke. Would a normal man allow his wife to meet privately with her ex-husband? Miss Lavia is my wife, Hang declared his ownership without hesitation. These words reminded the emperor of how he once took Lavia away from this man. He had used the same reason, saying Lavia was his wife. Now these words were thrown back at him. It was truly karma. But the emperor only felt this man was despicable. Seeing that Hang couldn't be persuaded, he had to shift his focus to Lavia. He hoped to speak with Lavia alone. Although Lavia was curious about what the emperor wanted to say, if she walked away, the little puppy would surely be upset. To prevent the king from crying, Lavia could only grab Hang's hand. If the emperor had nothing important to say, she wanted to be with her husband. She turned to leave the place. The emperor called out Lavia's name, but only received a cold glare in return. She warned the emperor not to harass her again. The emperor watched them leave, unable to calm his emotions. The next day finally brought Rasta's wedding ceremony. The magnificently decorated wedding hall showed the emperor's regard for Rasta. He even had the nerve to say Rasta would be empress for a year. It was simply ridiculous. At this moment, the bride and groom entered. The emperor was taken aback by Rasta's attire. Rose was also whispering about this in Lavia's ear. Rasta had dressed herself like a Christmas tree, attempting to outdo Lavia with elaborate jewels. Openly competing with the former empress was clearly not allowed by the emperor. But Rasta insisted on causing trouble. There was nothing to be done. The newlyweds would fall out on their wedding day. Even the green tea bitch had her day. Serves her right. Stop bothering Lavia and Hang's sweet romance. At the wedding ceremony, Rasta's behavior caused an uproar. She had dressed herself like a Christmas tree, trying to outshine Lavia with elaborate jewels. Anyone could see she was trying to compete with the former empress. The emperor wouldn't allow it, but Rasta would make trouble. Besides, she was going for a pure image, which couldn't be achieved with such an opulent outfit. You should know, before she always wore simple white clothes. Among the lavishly dressed nobles, she stood out as a pure white flower. This could be said to be her unique charm. Now it was completely gone. However, the crowd's thoughts didn't affect the progress of the wedding. Sobiai and Rasta signed their names on the marriage certificate. The new imperial couple of the Eastern Empire was thus born. Lavia in the audience also applauded, but in her heart, she hoped this was the last day of their happy life. Clearly, the author Dada heard the new daughter's thoughts. After the ceremony, the emperor demanded Rasta change her clothes. Rasta didn't understand, thinking the ceremony and marriage oath should be the same, so she should take off all the jewelry. To the emperor, this was just an absurd farce. Rasta was reluctant, but had to obey the emperor's order. Finally, Rasta removed her jewelry and began the carriage tour with the emperor. They sat back to back in silence the whole way, until cheers for the empress reached their ears. Only then did Rasta snap out of her low mood. Outside the carriage were citizens welcoming them. At this point, Rasta finally realized, that's right, I'm the empress now. What's there to be gloomy about? These cheers made Rasta beam with joy, but made Lavia, who followed closely behind, uneasy. How would the citizens of the Eastern Empire view her, the former empress? Who could resist the charming Hang with his slicked back hair? At least Lavia couldn't. During the wedding procession, cheers of long live Empress Rasta echoed through every street and alley. But when faced with the former imperial couple, the citizens of the Eastern Empire showed the expected cold attitude. The bustling streets suddenly fell into an eerie silence. Lavia understood, but still maintained an unaffected demeanor. Hang beside her held Lavia's hand, transmitting strength and warmth to his wife. Time passed, and they arrived at the evening wedding banquet venue. Rasta was beaming with joy, enjoying the nobles' congratulations and gifts, while the atmosphere around Lavia was extremely tense. Just thinking about how the once loyal citizens now treated her coldly, Lavia's heart sank deeply. However, thanks to the powerful Droy family, some people were already greeting and chatting with Lavia. This might be a rare stroke of luck. After all, not everyone was willing to maintain friendly relations with her regardless of nationality. Soon after, elegant music began to play. The newlywed imperial couple started the opening dance. Lavia watched all this very calmly. The noble's cold attitude was nothing compared to the citizens. It was hardly worth mentioning. In the banquet hall, After the emperor finished the opening dance, guests began to enter the dance floor and dance gracefully. At this moment, Hang appeared and invited Lavia to dance. His handsome face paired with luxurious clothing, he was undoubtedly one of the most handsome men on the continent. Lavia was worried about Hang because of the cold treatment she received. Now that the couple danced together, it gave the onlookers plenty to talk about. However, Hang was as steady as a rock. "My Empress, don't worry. Being able to stand by your side as your husband is enough to make my heart flutter. I don't care about rumors and gossip at all." On the emperor's wedding day, he abandoned his wife to embrace his ex-wife. The spectators' minds were filled with various royal love quadrangle dramas. Was this a grand dramatic scene? As Hang and Lavia finished one dance, Eledge appeared out of nowhere, wanting to invite Lavia for a dance. For various reasons, Lavia didn't refuse. After all, he was Hang's friend and had helped them escape from the Eastern Empire before. But Lavia felt strange about Eledge's sudden invitation to dance. However, Eledge's brows were furrowed, looking as if he had something difficult to say. After they finished dancing, they stopped, and Eledge finally seemed ready to speak his mind. The emperor called out to Lavia in front of everyone. Lavia's coldness, as well as the spectators' curious gazes, instantly stimulated the emperor's thick skin. "I want to dance this song with you." The emperor was more stubborn than a mule, but Lavia considered that she had rejected him in the courtyard before. Although the situation was awkward now, it wasn't good to embarrass the emperor again. So the two of them began to dance. Time flew by. They hadn't been this close for a long time. Lavia took familiar yet strange dance steps, reminding her of when the emperor had abandoned her to dance with Rasta. Now, everything was reversed. What did he want to say that he would risk getting close to her in public? Soon Lavia learned the emperor's purpose. He wanted to ask if she had received his letter. Lavia had already told the emperor through her secretary that she wouldn't return, but the emperor just wouldn't believe it. It was at this moment that the blindly confident emperor realized all his beautiful fantasies had turned to bubbles. This was absolutely the most suffocating dramatic scene. Not only did she have to deal with her cheating ex-husband asking for reconciliation, but she also had to maintain a smile with the jerk's current wife on the same stage. Lavia felt exhausted. She begged to be left alone. Seeing the emperor looking as if struck by lightning, Lavia still maintained her usual calmness. Unexpectedly, the emperor whimpered pitifully, "I never intended to abandon you." Lavia was speechless. Who would believe such nonsense about remarrying after a year? It was nothing more than an empty promise. Who knows if the emperor would have another child during this time? Wouldn't that mean the emperor's marriage to Rasta would be extended? Lavia's dance steps remained perfectly composed. Even if the emperor kept his promise after a year, I don't want to raise his majesty and Rasta's child. This child would grow up thinking I'm his mother's nemesis, destined to be driven out eventually. The two parted ways unhappily. The emperor hadn't even considered the consequences of remarrying. He was just selfishly wanted to have it all. As Lavia was lost in thought, Rose appeared, stammering and hesitating. After a while, she finally said that Rasta had borrowed a large sum of money for the nursing home in her own name to commemorate the wedding. And this amount happened to be 20 million krots. Isn't this the same amount I left behind? I clearly warned her not to do it in her personal name. Rasta acted on her own, but it's still necessary to remind her. So on the second day of the wedding banquet, Lavia approached Rasta, asking to dance with her, as long as she could contribute one last effort for her motherland. Regarding Lavia's sudden request, Rasta felt very surprised. Logically, given their awkward positions, it would be better not to interact. But Rasta finally agreed. Their dance made everyone present feel uncomfortable. This was definitely a scene so awkward it could make toes curl enough to dig out a 3-bedroom apartment. You would never imagine the ancient plot of framing a miscarriage would play out again. Lavia could only watch silently as the green tea bitch performed. All this originated from Lavia wanting to remind Rasta about the support fund matter. In narrow-minded Rasta's eyes, Lavia's actions were just showing off, trying to gain everyone's praise through her dance. The player didn't care about Rasta's overinterpretation. So what if Rasta hates her? Duke Langdoran and Marquis Kaler can both help you. Use those who seek power, but don't get too close. Also, be sure to stay away from those who help you choose your outfit today. Seeing Rasta's bewildered face, Lavia stated she did this only for the country. When asked about the check, Rasta just found the woman before her annoying. Even when Lavia suggested Rasta use her own private money to provide support, Rasta couldn't hold it together anymore. The woman was being too high and mighty. Who did she think she was ordering around? Watching Lavia leave, Rasta decided to teach her a lesson. So she started to cry out in pain, clutching her stomach and falling in the center of everyone's view. The spectators once again got a taste of royal drama. These familiar lines, this familiar scene. Lavia was helpless. She had anticipated this possibility, but she still had to admire Rasta's refined performance. Fortunately, Hang was by her side. He would believe in her without hesitation, defend her, and Hang just calmly watched the farce before him, not caring about the murderous look in the Emperor's eyes. But the urgent matter now was to check if Rasta was all right. The Emperor carried Rasta away from everyone's sight. In the wedding restroom, the doctor said Rasta was just shocked. It could also be due to psychological pressure. Where did all this pressure come from? Of course, because of the Empress. Rasta whined and complained. The Empress threatened me. I'm so scared. Sobiechu once again witnessed the stupidity of the person before him. How did she threaten you? Rasta was instantly speechless, because the Empress had no grounds to threaten her. Her husband was still thinking of his ex-wife after marriage, unmoved by her fall and possible miscarriage. What kind of pig's trotter is this? Rasta sobbed loudly, blaming the Empress for causing her to have pregnancy complications. However, the Emperor clearly didn't agree with her claim about the Empress threatening her. Lavia is now the princess of the Western Kingdom. Why would she need to do that? Rasta also realized this logical error. She didn't dare to speak carelessly for a moment. The Emperor wasn't a fool. Being threatened meant he had a weakness that was exploited. If the Emperor knew that she had misused the check the Empress left for her to use freely, the consequences would be unimaginable. Rasta didn't dare say another word. She just silently cried. Away from Lavia, the Emperor's intelligence was online. He noticed something fishy in Rasta's subtle expressions. It seemed Rasta must have done something behind his back, but Lavia definitely wouldn't do anything threatening. Perhaps Rasta was just overthinking. The Emperor was helpless. Why was his new wife so troublesome? He wiped Rasta's tears and didn't blame her further. When the Emperor left the restroom, Rasta was seething with anger. He still called Lavia Empress. She was the Empress now. How could the Emperor call Lavia Empress? Rasta fell into a depressed mood. Just thinking about the former Empress's accusatory face filled her with hatred. The check was given voluntarily, and now she's using it to boss her around. Her name wasn't even on it. If I can't use it, why not just give it to the Emperor? Why hadn't Lavia thought of this? But if she did that, it would seem like she was trying to curry favor with the Emperor. Since she had decided to leave, she shouldn't get entangled. Lavia was sadly admiring the scenery when she noticed a shining spot in the distance. As she approached, she found Elgar holding a glowing object. At this moment, Elgar noticed the footsteps and looked up to see Lavia. Being caught peeking was incredibly awkward. Since she was discovered, she could only steel herself and ask about the object in Elgar's hand. It turned out to be a necklace with magic properties. It's so unfair. His wife's ex-husband is trying to steal her away again. He even dared to come to his room. Hang's heart was struck, needing his wife's comfort to ease the pain. On the small path in the southern palace, looking at Lavia, who was captivated by the gem before her, Elgar felt uneasy. His expression was melancholic. But Lavia, after a mental storm, actually concluded that he liked Rasta. She got married, and he was heartbroken. Elgar was confused. Did I? He was concerned about what happened during the carriage parade. Elgar thought Lavia was upset about what happened during the parade. Lavia, however, said it was unavoidable. Human nature is always so greedy and unpredictable. One moment of dissatisfaction can overturn all the goodwill before marriage. Lavia guessed that he might have experienced something similar, but their relationship wasn't close enough to ask, so she bid farewell to Elgar. The gentlemanly Elgar offered to escort her back. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day of the wedding. These past few days, she and Hang had been busy socializing. They had very little time alone together. Hang expressed his disappointment. He asked his wife to spend time with him. How do you plan to comfort this little bird? Just as they were at the door, they ran into the emperor. Seeing his conflicted expression, they thought he was going to confront her about Rasta's incident. Taking the initiative, she declared that she hadn't done anything. The emperor felt wronged. How could I think that way? The peculiar emperor seemed to lack common sense. This time he surprisingly didn't blame Rasta's fall on her. He acted hurt that Lavia would think of him that way. Then why are you looking for me? Lavia was exasperated. They weren't in a position to meet privately now. The emperor, seeing his ex-wife's cold gaze, felt a pain in his heart. He wanted to ask Lavia to go inside. The doorway was too busy and inconvenient. But Lavia always remembered their status. Just say it here. Coincidentally, Hang had just reached the corner when he heard the emperor pleading with Lavia. Come back. I don't want you to be another man's wife. Hearing Sabixiu's words, Hang couldn't control his inner rage. In life, there's never been a more heartbreaking moment than this. You've definitely never seen someone so clingy to his wife. Even a small gift from his wife could make him burst with joy. Of course, Hang couldn't laugh at this moment, because overhearing Sabixiu's attempt to steal his wife made him distressed. He quietly left the scene alone, full of worry. Even looking up at the sky didn't give him the mood to appreciate it. Sabixiu stubbornly believed that they were still husband and wife, pleading for Lavia to come back. All of this made Hang's heart panic. Although he didn't hear Lavia's specific response, whether it was psychological or not, subconsciously, he didn't dare to listen carefully. But judging by Sabixiu's hurried attempt to keep her at the end, he probably didn't get the answer he wanted. Hang tried to comfort himself. Maybe Lavia and her ex-husband only had a sibling-like relationship now. But he was always worried. What if Lavia agreed? Just then, there was a knock on the door. Hang, who was just lost in thought, saw his wife come in. The background wall seemed to burst into flowers. Lavia was still a bit unused to his enthusiasm, but she came this time to comfort the little puppy. Seeing him rush over excitedly, he was really cute. Lavia took out the gift she had carefully prepared. It was so small, who knows what was inside? The little puppy started wagging left and right, trying to guess. When his wife said to open it and see, he obediently listened. Then he received a sincere item. As for Hang, because of his guess, his eyes lit up, because it was a miniature sweater, specially customized for the Empress. How is it? I want one too. Do you know if the little puppy likes this gift? Super cute. There's no better gift than this. Look at Hang's satisfied little expression. Lavia was relieved. Her advanced preparation wasn't in vain. She had to satisfy his wish to become a big bird and cuddle with her. Since arriving in the Eastern Empire, they've been so busy they haven't had time to spend together. Clothes make the man. Hang, this bird, also showed an adorable expression thanks to the cute little clothes, successfully lying in his wife's arms. It all stemmed from Lavia's invitation. When you become the Empress, I'll personally help you dress. What? There's such a good thing. Hang was almost dazed by the surprise. Lavia sat on the side, patting her knee. When Hang turns into a bird, we can cuddle. Hang, adhering to not missing a single opportunity, transformed into a bird, holding the little clothes in his beak, and started acting cute. So cute it made people roll on the floor. Who could resist this? Lavia's heart melted. Lavia quickly hugged the little cutie into her arms. Getting a little lamb, the proud golden big bird was just too adorable. Lavia first hugged his head to show affection. Then she embraced the little cutie in her arms. Hang was so satisfied he kept humming and soon fell asleep. After this interaction, Hang's smile never left his face. My wife called me cute. Good thing the statue isn't human. Otherwise, it would be annoyed to death. Michaela, following behind, didn't know what to say. 1 second Hang was praising himself for being a cute husband. The next second, he realized a terrible fact. Doesn't a cute husband mean a useless husband? Hang quickly asked his ally about his usual image, but actually very reliable. Also a pure little bird. But in others' eyes, he's just a playboy. So Hang received a fatal blow. What to do? After marriage, he definitely needs to consummate with his wife. What if Lavia thinks I'm experienced in love, but I'm actually a newbie? Plus, this is her second marriage. There's bound to be a comparison with the previous one. What if my skills aren't good enough and she's disappointed? Ugh, in a foreign land. What's it like for my brother to suddenly become so popular? Today, Hang specially prepared a welcome ceremony to show appreciation for the knights participating in the knight's quest. But Lavia kept showing signs of worry. She was distracted. The maid had already told Lavia yesterday. During the return ceremony, the ladies would tie handkerchiefs to their favorite knights. Now, as a member of the royal family, Lavia must also go to boost morale. But Lavia seemed very hesitant. On one hand, She thought her single brother had no partner, so she should give him a handkerchief. On the other hand, she feared her presence might ruin the atmosphere like last time. Everyone kept comforting her emotions. Michaela was especially attentive to her. At this moment, the music started, a golden spectacle. As the trumpets sounded, people began to cheer enthusiastically. The shouting was deafening. At that moment, riding a white horse, he made a dazzling entrance amidst flowers and cheers. As one of the most popular knights, he definitely took center stage. Lavia was stunned. She didn't expect Kashia to be so well-liked. The city boy next to Lavia explained that the first 2 rows were the public vote rankings. The top 3 had the loudest cheers. It was just like a large-scale boy band selection show. Lavia was completely relieved because her brother was standing at the front of the queue. The sound of hooves came closer. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. The ceremony officially began. The guards raised their hands to signal. Under everyone's gaze, the knights dismounted and came forward. What Lavia didn't expect was that the ladies went up one by one. She was completely speechless. She had hoped to blend in. With Hank's encouraging wink, she comforted her nervous heart. Taking a deep breath, she stood on tiptoe and lifted her skirt. She walked to her brother. After Kashia gracefully bowed to her, she slowly put the handkerchief on him. This moment was filled with blessings and hope. Looking over her brother's broad shoulders, her gaze couldn't help but twitch. Abeling was grinning with his big white teeth. Lavia looked at this beautiful scene, hoping from now on, the negative image of her brother could slowly be erased. The brother was cherished and the sister was missed. Truly, the siblings had unlimited charm. In the palace, a maid brought a basket of letters to Lavia. They were all love letters for Kashia. It turned out that at yesterday's ceremony, her brother's charm was too great. The ladies all came to express their feelings. Rose glanced at the infatuated girl behind her, saying that Kashia was tall and handsome. Anyone would like him. Mastas excitedly said, "The key is his noble status and position." She was totally a fangirl. Hearing their conversation, Lavia was completely dumbfounded, quite doubtful. Is his charm really that great? Rose thought it should be. Lavia had gotten used to it in the Eastern Empire. This hit a sore spot. Memories kept rolling. People here couldn't possibly know that her brother had been despised since childhood. After all, good news doesn't travel far, but bad news spreads quickly. But none of that mattered now. Anyway, Lavia felt that as long as her brother could keep being liked by people, it would be fine. This way, many things could be reduced. They wouldn't have to ally with Moran Lily because of opposition to the former Princess Krista. We just have a grand wish to consolidate our position without using any troops. The sound of carriages echoed in the street. Looking at this castle building, I couldn't help but gaze into the distance. But I deeply missed that girl in my mind, our female lead. Lavia looked up and forward, suddenly noticing 2 familiar figures. The Grand Duke really thought this was the Lavia he had been thinking about. He hurriedly tried to reach out and grab her, but couldn't catch her. He stood there stunned, feeling as if he was seriously ill. The guard quickly asked what was wrong. The Grand Duke mumbled, wanting to confirm. Was that just an illusion? So the guard habitually began to look around. All right, assessment complete. It's bad news again. Sadness welled up in the Grand Duke's heart. It's truly helpless. Longing is a very mysterious thing. He turned and began to ask which direction the Western Kingdom guards were heading. The guard raised a standard smile and began to kindly lead the way. The 2 walked briskly towards the palace. This time, would he be able to see the Lavia he had been thinking about? Haing received the Grand Duke. The couple's meeting was like a scene from a grand palace drama. The Grand Duke followed the guard, striding into the magnificent Star Chamber Palace, surveying everything in the room, just like its name, jewels as bright as stars decorated it. Everything exuded luxury. Haing's room for receiving distinguished guests. Was this man flaunting his country's wealth? Looking up, he saw Haing sitting high on the throne. He gazed at the Grand Duke nobly and proudly, his eyes full of smugness. The Grand Duke bowed slightly, congratulating him on his ascension. Then he began to exchange pleasantries with Haing. The 2 men's gazes intertwined. At this moment, it was like a world war. Smoke filled the air. When they accidentally met on the road before, he had stirred up trouble with a clumsy excuse. This was the first time since then to see this man, the Grand Duke. Fortunately, his queen's man had won. He provocatively spoke, hoping the Grand Duke would congratulate him on holding the wedding ceremony. But at the same time, he insincerely worried about him getting close to his queen. The Grand Duke's twitching face stared at this outrageous emperor. In his heart, he silently thought of the queen he loved. It must be said, this was killing with kindness. He could only reluctantly offer congratulations. Under Hank's leisurely and smug expression, the Grand Duke directly said that for her, wearing a wedding dress must have felt like a dream. Hank felt as if he was hearing things. The Grand Duke clenched his fist. He conveniently apologized for his inappropriate remark. Hank could only put on a fake smile, warning him not to regret it later, like when he had raised his fist against Sobiechu. Then he began to suppress his about-to-explode temper in his own way. He started frantically brainwashing himself. Don't drive others away out of jealousy. The queen said he was the most lovable. For the Grand Duke, however, it was like a bolt from the blue. Only that cold, desolate silhouette told that he had lost this round to hang. When you receive your ex-wife's wedding invitation, how would you react? Here, a letter was thrown onto the table, followed immediately by angry curses. It turned out to be a letter Hang sent to Sobiechu. It read, "For the sake of our friendship." The Azure Emperor gritted his teeth and mangled the paper. He threw it to the ground with a slap. Seeing this, the guard risked his life to warn the emperor. If you mistreat another country's princess's letter like this, and it's preserved, not only the court historian, but future generations will see it. But on second thought, when future generations study history, they would naturally think the relationship during this period wouldn't be too surprising. Suddenly, the emperor slammed his fist on the table. He recalled his previous attempt to win back Lavia, his confession that was cruelly rejected. At that time, Lavia didn't even get angry at him. That expression she made hurt me so much. Let's discuss this matter later. Didn't you say there were other things to report? The guard boldly said, it's about the Empress's support funds. Lavia, no, it's about Empress Rasta. At the wedding banquet, Her Majesty the Empress said she would donate 2,000 croats. But it was a royal check left by Lavia previously. Thinking about how Rosa had just become Empress and was already using someone else's money to make herself look good, the guard felt disgusted. However, Emperor Sobiechu retracted, but he expressed that he didn't understand. Let's not deal with this matter for now. Only by doing this will those who dislike Rasta be somewhat restrained. The guard was too exhausted to criticize. This confident man started to fantasize again. So Lavia was still considering things for Rasta. What kind of impact would it bring after knowing about this? Meanwhile, Rosa was feeling very pleased with herself. The scenic walking path, the elegant interior design, the patrolling guards, the luxurious corridors, the antique bedchamber, all belonged to her now. The entire Western Palace was hers. She hoped her child could inherit the throne, and she herself could gain power through her son. Thinking about how she could go from being despised by everyone to giving birth to royal blood. Thinking about how she used to be looked down upon, and is still being talked about, but she still had the last laugh. Even if people ignore her, it's still Rasta who sits on the throne as Empress. Jinu appeared beside her with a worried expression. Rosa hurriedly asked, "Are you still thinking about your former mistress?" The maid reluctantly said yes. Because of this, not a single person, not even the noble ladies, had sent a gift. Rosa's face immediately darkened, not knowing what to do. The newly elevated woman had finally gone from rags to riches, truly becoming the Empress of the Eastern Empire. According to custom, when a new empress ascends the throne, nobles would rush to send gifts to curry favor. But unexpectedly, the reception room that should have been filled with gold, silver, and jewels was cold and empty. The only inconspicuous small gift box was sent by her abandoned ex-lover. There wasn't even anyone who came to offer congratulations. Seeing this, Rosa became furious. Even the maid beside her couldn't bear to watch. This is why royal marriages have always emphasized matching backgrounds. Simple-minded Rosa didn't consider her own origins. A runaway slave who climbed up using her looks, yet now had a higher status than those of noble birth. If it weren't for the emperor's poor judgment of green tea girls, abusing his privilege as the ruler, ignoring public opinion to do as he pleased. In terms of family background, upbringing, or intelligence, how could she compare to the previous empress? This difference between heaven and earth didn't need anyone to point out specifically. Not to mention the former Empress Lavia, who didn't even consider this mistress worth her attention. She divorced the emperor because she found true love and was also tired of this foolish man. Such a simple truth, yet some people couldn't understand, treating Lavia as an imaginary enemy all day long. You don't receive wedding congratulations and can blame it on the remarried former empress. It's truly a case of trouble coming from nowhere. saying someone must be secretly manipulating things when in fact no one cares, harboring resentment. In fact, at this time, Lavia had no interest in her ex-husband and the mistress's wedding. How to establish herself in the Western Kingdom's social circle was her biggest challenge at the moment. Currently, the social circle was led by two noble ladies, split into two factions. To gain support from one faction, you had to offend the other. To be honest, for the newly arrived Lavia, it wasn't wise to make enemies with either side. If she could subtly and politely probe their attitudes before making a decision, that would be better. In social circles, the tradition of expressing intentions through sending flowers has a long history. Using the language of various plants to convey messages is a unique ingenuity of noble ladies. Who would have thought that the handsome duke, under the influence of a love potion, would fall for the popular empress? In fact, not long ago, Lavia had sent a pod of wisteria to Krista, using the pretext of inquiring about the plant's growth to get a response from her. The flower language of wisteria represents friendship. The sender was clearly expressing goodwill, and Krista, who had the upper hand, didn't clarify their future relationship, only hoping not to be enemies with Lavia. Getting this information, Lavia finally breathed a sigh of relief. Given that they both had similar experiences, there was no need to be secretive anymore. In the current social situation, if war were officially declared, it wouldn't benefit anyone. But if both sides went a step further and became friendly with Krista, she wouldn't like that either. The woman before her, worthy of leading half the social circle, could be said to be flawless in her words and actions. Not wanting to engage in conflict was a compromise, but in reality, she still didn't want to get too close to the neutral faction. Now that Krista had the upper hand in the internal strife, she wouldn't easily change this situation. Moreover, if Lavia was too eager to be her enemy, the responsibility would definitely be pushed entirely onto her. After much calculation, she didn't expect this to be a dead end. If she continued to remain neutral, the result of joining either side would be the same. It might be better to change tactics and secretly send flowers to Marini to test the waters. Just as she finished instructing the maid, Duke Kaufman arrived. Seeing him pacing back and forth in the small garden, it was likely about trade relations with the new kingdom. Lavia didn't know that Duke Kaufman was actually troubled because the potion hadn't worn off yet. He didn't know why, but he always unconsciously wanted to be close to the new princess. Seeing his face and hearing his voice, his mind went blank. This led Lavia to misunderstand that the imperial duke was shy around strangers due to cultural differences. Not good at conversation, Duke Kaufman left the princess's residence with a confused look. This scene was coincidentally witnessed by Krista's maid. He quickly ran to report the good news to his mistress, saying the Western princess and the duke were not on good terms. This could be exploited. If successful, they could even divert the noble's attention from Lavia's brother, and instead support Krista, who was on good terms with the Duke of the country. What a situation. Letting a slave-born green tea girl become the empress of a country by playing the White Lotus. Rasta, who was previously worried about not receiving gifts, is now starting a new round of drama. Although claiming to be a queen for the common people, she didn't slack in courting the nobles either. Even if some nobles didn't want to get involved in royal power struggles, they couldn't easily refuse the empress's invitation. So Rasta, relying on her status as the Western Empress, invited all the noble-born in the country to attend a tea party. The goal was to get these high-end mighty gentlemen to support her, who came from the slums. Although Rasta didn't mention a word, the decorations and snacks at the tea party revealed her intentions. The cookie castle, originally meant as a tea snack, became a symbol of royal power. "This is specially prepared for you all," Rasta said with a hidden knife in her smile, facing the panicked nobles. The implication was that if they didn't support her, they were opposing His Majesty and the entire empire. Seeing that no one dared to speak up, the low-born empress slowly began to bare her fangs. Talking about wanting to deepen friendships and fearing internal strife would affect the emperor. This act of being cultured and deep was performed quite convincingly, as expected of a woman who had fought her way through the harem with her acting skills and talents. Even the nobles, seasoned in politics, were deceived by her exquisite disguise. Little did they know that this seemingly high-class empress was actually just a puppet of others. After a round of grand talks, Rasta led the nobles in a toast. But considering the child in her belly, she naturally avoided the drinking culture. So the topic naturally turned to children. Everyone pretended to congratulate Rasta. If the emperor's child could be born safely, it would be a great event for the Eastern Empire. If it were a prince, Rasta would rise in status due to her son. At this point, the nobles began to calculate whether following the Empress's faction could bring them benefits. But regardless of gender, this would surely be a blessed child. Even the name that would accompany it for life would be chosen by the highest-ranking person in the country. Who could have imagined that the Empress of the Empire was once a vicious mother who abandoned her own flesh and blood? Viscount Rorodiu once showed Rasta a baby's corpse, claiming it was the fruit of their love. The unsuspecting Rasta burst into tears, and her emotions became unstable. Later, it was revealed that this was all Viscount Rorodiu's scheme to drive Rasta mad and prevent her from escaping. As for where that poor little life came from and who it was, no one else knew. Only later, when meeting with the informed Arlen, did she learn by chance that the child who resembled Rasta was Calden. Why, after so many years, does it still feel so vivid when recalling? The past doesn't really matter. What's important is the future of the royal bloodline. Just as our green tea empress was immersed in self-pity, suddenly a noble started to lead a counterattack. He couldn't stand the low-born Rasta acting high and mighty, giving orders. On one hand, she claimed to be born for the common people to gain popularity. On the other, she actively courted nobles, wanting to have it both ways, but not considering if she had the ability. The noble's words, completely off script, left Rasta at a loss for what to do. After the tea party ended in an awkward atmosphere, Rasta pulled the Duke behind the scenes and started crying. She had followed all the steps the Duke gave her, so why did a rebellious noble dare to challenge the Empress? The Duke shook his head at the unreasonable woman before him, mocking her for being too naive. Rasta, who had risen to power by supporting the common people, naturally wouldn't win the noble's favor. Rasta always believed the Duke's words implicitly, as he was the only one who openly supported the new Empress, to the point that he couldn't advise her. An emperor who couldn't win status had no value as an ally. But ever since Rasta became pregnant with the emperor's child, the princess's attitude towards him began to gradually grow distant. For this lifeline right before her eyes, the empress desperately tried to please him for some unknown reason. Only by expressing enough trust could she avoid losing this think tank. And the Duke's next step for her was to reclaim control over her own property management. The second season of Remarried Empress finally reached its grand finale, and Lavia and Heinlei's wedding was just a week away from being officially held. For this nationwide celebratory event, many nobles arrived early in the capital. While the Emperor Heinlei was busy receiving guests, Lavia excused herself, saying she had related matters to attend to. She didn't participate in the banquet activities, but instead gave herself a short vacation. The recent social circle turmoil had gradually subsided through Lavia's planning. After hitting a soft spot with Krista, she turned to support Nyen from the other faction. Seeing this, other noble young ladies began to switch sides. Soon, the entire social circle was in Nyen's grasp. Nyen didn't deny the rumors about her in her home country, and used these rumors to attract the nobles of the Western Empire. Even Krista's archenemy, Moranini, resolved a major concern. Moranini responded to the bouquet Lavia sent to indicate secret cooperation by sending a potted plant representing trust. Thinking that there weren't many worries recently, all that was left was to leisurely wait for the wedding countdown. If she could safely get through the wedding night with the support of the social circle, then Lavia, the soon-to-be princess, could be smoothly accepted by the people of the Western Empire. Speaking of the wedding night, Lavia suddenly thought of her ex-husband. Although her marriage to the king of the Eastern Empire was in name only, she was still a once-married woman. Her ex-husband, despite already having a mistress, still begged Lavia to return to him, asking a foreign mother to assist in raising the mistress's child to the throne. How sick in the head was this man? To think of such a thing. Even if he begged Lavia, she wouldn't return to that heartbreaking place again. Thinking of this, Lavia just sighed. All the good family relationships were ruined. Rather than worrying, she decided to take a stroll in the back garden with her servants. So Lavia packed up and went out to appreciate flowers with 3 or 5 maids. Unexpectedly, on the way, she ran into Duke Kaufman daydreaming under a tree. On the eve of the wedding, for the bride-to-be to meet alone with a poisonous man was indeed inappropriate according to etiquette. Perhaps realizing his impropriety, Duke Kaufman also felt a bit awkward. If there was a potion that would make you fall in love with the first person you see after drinking it, who would you give it to? As soon as Duke Kaufman saw Lavia, he quickly explained that he didn't mean to offend her. Because it was his first time in the Western Kingdom, he was unfamiliar with the place and didn't know the back garden was under the princess's jurisdiction. Although this was unreasonable, Duke Kaufman frankly said he was very happy. Since leaving abruptly last time, he had been thinking about Lavia. This earth-shattering frankness startled the servant into dropping the meal. Fortunately, a quick-witted maid quickly pulled the servants away from the scene. After the onlookers left, Lavia slowly spoke, saying it seemed the drug's effects hadn't completely worn off. In fact, at this point, only Kaufman himself knew that his feelings for Lavia weren't just due to the drug. Whether it hadn't worn off or he didn't want it to wear off, he couldn't figure it out himself. What was more concerning was that this invitation for him to enter the country and attend the wedding was it out of political considerations of the Western Kingdom, or due to the princess-to-be's personal feelings? Lavia straightforwardly answered that it was her own doing. This actually made Duke Kaufman feel relieved. Heinlein himself saw Kaufman as a dangerous beast, so how could he easily let the wolf into the house? As they talked, Kaufman felt his heart racing again. Lavia instinctively wanted to reach out to comfort him, but was verbally refused by Duke Kaufman. He confessed that he was already deeply involved, and if there was any physical contact, he would completely lose control. He felt that rather than talking so awkwardly, it would be better not to meet again in the past. If he had known meeting would be so painful, he would rather not have come to the wedding. Unfortunately, Lavia still underestimated her own charm and Kaufman's determination. Even without a formal invitation, the man would have snuck in on his own. Seeing no way out, he thought he might as well drink that potion again. As long as he looked at someone else this time, he wouldn't be troubled by liking Lavia. In fact, back when Kaufman first saw Lavia, who was still the Empress in the Eastern Empire, he was already deeply impressed by her proper appearance and contrasting inner personality. From that moment on, his gaze could never leave La.